God. I need somebody out here.
What's going on?
Oh, God.
There's 4 people.
In my mama's house.
Who are these people that are in the house?
It's my mom and my grandpa and my granny and my stepdad.
Amy Villard, a daughter and mother, walked across the dew-covered lawn, expecting to exchange morning greetings. Instead, she stepped into a scene so gruesome, so unthinkable, that even seasoned detectives would later call it one of the most brutal crime scenes they had ever witnessed.
Hey, are you Ross? I'm Tyler Duncan. I'm with Anderson County Sheriff's Office. This is Steve.
How you doing? How's it going?
I got assigned the case about the homicide that happened in Pendleton in 2015.
Okay.
Is Amy here?
Sure.
So since she's the one that called 911, I think you were there also. We'd like to talk to you. If you want to come on out, we'll talk to you and then we can talk to her.
What had happened inside that trailer? Who could unleash such carnage on a family so close-knit, so seemingly ordinary? And why, despite all signs pointing to betrayal, would justice take nearly a decade to arrive?
I keep feeling like I should be waking up from a dream right now, and it's just not happening. So yeah, it's like a movie or something. It's not supposed to be real life.
Investigators now say they believe the 4 victims were murdered in this house sometime on Saturday. That's a day earlier than first thought, but family members say that just doesn't add up.
I keep feeling like I should be waking up from a dream right now, and it's just not happening. So yeah, it's like a movie or something. It's not supposed to be real life. And I understand there again, they've got a job to do, but sometimes as family members, we want answers, and we just want to know what's going on.
This is the story of secrets buried in blood, of greed wrapped in family ties, and of a Halloween night that became a lasting nightmare. Pendleton, South Carolina, charming, historic, and deceptively peaceful. The Scott family had deep roots in this community. Mike and Kathy Scott, sweethearts since junior high, had spent their golden years caring for their aging mothers, Violet Taylor and Barbara Scott. Living together on a single plot in 2 modest trailers, they formed a rare 4-generation household, a rarity in modern times, and a testament to their devotion. But devotion, as it turns out, would be no shield, especially when fractured by bitterness, jealousy, and money. In the trailer just steps away lived their daughter, Amy Villard, her new husband, Ross, and Amy's 2 children.
Now, it all started here about 12:30 this afternoon. That's when deputies from Anderson County got a call about a possible shooting. When investigators went into the home, they found the victim. Discovery was made today by Kathy Scott's daughter. Now, deputies tell me at this point they don't know how or why this happened, only that they have a lot of investigating to do.
The family dynamic was strained. Tensions had grown in recent months, fed by personal feuds, financial strain, and a troubling rift between Amy and her parents. And while outwardly the Villards ran a humble pet grooming business, behind closed doors things were beginning to unravel. This fragile family bond, once sewn tight by love, would soon be torn apart, leaving a trail of blood, mystery, and a community stunned to its core. It all began to unravel on the morning of November 2nd, 2015. Amy Villard, still in her pajamas, crossed the lawn that separated her home from her parents. The crisp autumn air was thick with silence, and something about it felt off. The dogs hadn't been out, the lights were off, and the usual bustle of morning activity inside the double-wide trailer was eerily absent. She unlocked the door and stepped into darkness. What met her eyes was carnage. Total, unfiltered carnage. 4 bodies, lifeless and bloodied. Her mother, Kathy, her stepfather, Mike, and the 2 grandmothers, Violet and Barbara. The home, once filled with laughter and family dinners, now resembled a war zone. Each victim had been stabbed, their throats viciously slashed, and in a twisted post-mortem display, each had been shot twice in the head.
I know myself and my brothers saw them right around the 6 o'clock time frame. Shortly after that,
I saw him go in the house about 8. The back door was unlocked when I came and discovered everyone.
Things that Amy has mentioned, jewelry-wise, that are not on the search warrant.
Not on search warrant,
and they have not
here.
been found in the home yet.
Amy bolted back across the lawn in shock, screaming for Ross to keep the children inside. She called 911 in a frantic, tear-filled voice. The horror was real. But something else lurked beneath her panic, something that would only come to light years later. Police arrived swiftly. Pendleton, for all its quiet charm, was no stranger to the occasional crime. But this was different.
Well, it's just tragic and something that we don't see here in Anderson County very often. The last time we had 4 people killed involving homicide was in 2007, 2008.
A quadruple homicide in a rural town with little history of violent crime? The scene was unlike anything investigators had seen, and the clues, or lack thereof, made it worse. No broken windows, no forced entry, no obvious suspects. But one thing stood out immediately. The sheer brutality of the attack suggested personal rage. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was vengeance. Intimate, methodical, cruel. As the community reeled, the investigation began. Detectives combed through the scene, family members were interviewed, and suspicion, quiet and creeping, started to form. Amy and Ross, the couple just yards away, became central to the inquiry. Their finances didn't add up. Their stories changed. And then police made a discovery that turned suspicion into something far more serious. A large sum of cash, once believed lost in the attack, appeared in Amy and Ross's possession. Not just similar bills, exact serial number matches to money Mike Scott had shown in a photo before the murders. Still, it wasn't enough. Circumstantial evidence stacked up, but there was no smoking gun, no weapon, no witness, no confession. The case would grow cold, for now. But time, as investigators would learn, doesn't erase guilt. It merely waits until the truth, no matter how deeply buried, claws its way to the surface.
The type of person who's capable of doing something like this is a very dangerous person that we need off the streets. You know, the amount of hatred to stab somebody repeatedly, to slash them, it's not something that even a normal killer would do. It takes a monster to be able to do that.
Months turned to years. The headlines faded. The initial shock softened into quiet suspicion, and the Scott family's home, once filled with generations of life, stood as a grim monument to unresolved horror. But behind closed doors, the whispers never stopped. Amy and Ross, once seen as grieving survivors, were watched with careful eyes. Their behavior didn't sit right with the community, or the detectives who never truly closed the file. They moved into a new home, remodeled the scene of the murders, even tried to sell it. They launched a new dog grooming venture, publicly played the role of devastated relatives, and posted heartfelt tributes online. Yet to those following the case closely, their tears felt off.
If you were talking directly to the person, do you want to look in the camera and just say exactly what you would say to that person?
I can't say that on TV. I'm just going to be honest, I can't say that on TV.
Their grief seemed too polished, too performative. And then there was the money. Investigators had noted inconsistencies from the start. How Amy and Ross, allegedly drowning in debt, were suddenly flush with cash.
The stuff you see on TV, that has nothing, that you can't compare that. You can't compare that.
A week after a quadruple murder, a family is still searching for answers.
We used to have family dinners right here.
For Amy Velarde,
it's just been a blur.
They say they never heard any gunshots or anything out of the ordinary from their house just around the corner.
Over $60,000 was found in their trailer shortly after the murders, matching the exact amount Mike had reportedly stored at home. Serial numbers didn't lie. This was his money. So how did it end up in their possession? Amy said it was savings. Ross claimed it was military disability funds. But former employees from their pet grooming business told another story. Unpaid wages, overdue bills, repossessed vehicles.
Ross had made a joke and said, do you want me to It was a joke at the time.
Right.
Then later I was like, holy, I'm glad I didn't say yeah.
Name you right? What was your job there?
A bather, and
Bather.
I was learning in the process of grooming.
When you worked for the shop, you said they were just getting started, so they weren't very successful yet.
They appeared that they were fine.
Okay.
But then I would hear arguments of them, and a lot of it was money related. When I started working for her, I seen Kathy and Mike at the grooming shop. I was in the back grooming, so I didn't hear everything that was going on, but it was something to do with money.
Okay.
Throughout working there, she'd always tell me about how she was treated growing up and all of that.
What kind of stuff would she say about how she was treated?
She told me that she was always a daddy's girl, and she said her dad had he was working on a car and it crushed him, and he was placed in the hospital. And her mom decided to pull the plug. She always hated her mom for that.
The timeline of their financial struggles clashed violently with their supposed fortune. Still, no charges came, no arrests. The years dragged on, and the horror of that Halloween night threatened to be lost to memory. But justice, though slow, was never far. In 2023, nearly 8 years after the murders, a new detective took the case. With fresh eyes and relentless focus, they started again from scratch. And what they uncovered would reignite the fire beneath this long, cold case. A shoe print, an Asics sneaker, the same kind Ross was seen wearing on security footage the night of the murders, was found inside the house. Not just anywhere, but stamped in blood, laid down after the victims had bled out. Ross denied owning the shoes, but the footage said otherwise. And the shoes, gone, never recovered. Piece by piece, the puzzle began to form.
Your grandmother, and then obviously Mr. Scott and his mom. What do you remember? What can you help us with? Where should we look?
Yeah, me and my therapist talk about that a lot. Obviously, you got to know finding people doesn't really leave you in the right state of mind. Can do things to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then everything that ensued. I mean, honestly, I can barely remember the funerals.
Ross, tell us a little bit about like the relationship between, like, I guess y'all and the family. Something happened?
We got into it around 4th of July or something with Mike, but he wasn't a nice person at all. Because I told my mom, look, I don't like it. My kids can't come over there until we straighten some stuff out.
So at the time of the murders, you and your mom were back talking, everything was kind of getting patched up?
Me and my mother was not a horrible person. She was prickly.
She always hated her mom for that.
So can you tell us a little bit about that weekend when were you gone, when you got home and you found the bodies, or what happened?
He brought his mom's, my mother-in-law, to do Halloween. We went down there, we spent the weekend.
What day did y'all leave to go down?
Friday night.
Friday night.
I drove myself quite crazy for about a couple of years there. And I've chosen to step away, and I've got to be healthy, and I've got kids, and I've got a life to live, and if somebody else dropped the ball on it, it's not on me anymore.
Okay. Well, if we just ask Ross a couple more things, and we'll be out of here. You remember owning a red pair of shoes? A pair of shoes? Asics Speedstar shoes. Don't recall. These Asics Speedstar shoes.
Yeah, I remember those shoes.
What happened to the shoes?
That's a good question, because I have no idea.
This is from crime scene photos, and these are confirmed to be Asics Speedstar shoes.
Okay.
Inside, and they have blood droplets on them. And interestingly enough, you're at the Quick Trip wearing those shoes the night of the murders.
Okay.
So if you never went in the house, I'm just interested to know how they ended up in the house.
I have no idea how those shoes would have had any kind of blood on them. I mean, obviously I was wearing them at a Quick Trip on the 31st.
Well, and they never found the clothes either that you were
wearing. That hoodie?
Mm-hmm.
I think here.
The fact that your shoes are inside of the house in blood, that's a big problem.
Again, I don't know where the shoes are at the moment, and I don't remember whatever happened to those particular shoes. If something were to have happened that I had done, it would be stupid for me to wear them into the house and then wear them after that. right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They were never found. So it's almost like he got rid of them.
A new theory emerged, one that connected the motive, the means, and the moment. Amy and Ross hadn't been victims. They were the architects of a family's destruction, and in December 2023, the arrest finally came. Handcuffed and charged, the couple who once lived just steps from the scene of one of the most brutal crimes in South Carolina history were now at the center of it. Amy Villard, daughter, mother, alleged mastermind. Ross Moore Villard, Marine veteran, husband, alleged executioner. After 8 long years, justice wasn't just knocking, it was breaking down the door. The arrest came swiftly, almost quietly. December 2023, 8 years after that nightmarish Halloween, Amy and Ross Villard were taken into custody at their Columbia home. No dramatic chase, no final act of defiance. Just 2 people who thought they had escaped the reach of justice, now facing its full force. They were charged with 4 counts of murder. Immediately, prosecutors moved to deny bond, citing not just the heinous nature of the crime, but the couple's financial means and the potential flight risk. Twice they applied, twice they were denied, and for the first time, the public heard it plainly. The state believed Amy Villard was the mastermind, a woman who had everything to gain: her mother's inheritance, control over the estate, and access to tens of thousands in unbanked cash. She'd allegedly used her proximity, her trust, and her role as daughter and caregiver to orchestrate the unthinkable. Ross, trained by the military and capable of carrying out violence with precision, was believed to be her weapon. The timeline, once muddled by years of speculation, now sharpened. Amy lured her parents and grandmothers into calm. She texted Ross at 8:30 p.m. on Halloween night, "10 more minutes, LOL, everyone is up now and talking." It seemed innocent, but to detectives, it was the countdown. Ross entered the home, attacked first. No forced entry, no struggle from Mike. A swift, targeted assault, 6 stab wounds to the neck. The others tried to run. Amy perhaps blocked the way, perhaps even participated. Kathy, Amy's own mother, tried to reach for her revolver. It was found near her body, empty. The final blows were not just brutal, they were methodical. The state believed Amy cleaned the scene, hid the weapons, staged a discovery, then waited over a day to call for help. By the time police arrived, the trail was cold. Evidence buried, but it wasn't over. In February 2024, just 2 months after her arrest, 2 sharpened shanks were found in Amy's jail cell. When confronted, she reportedly said, "I'm getting out of here one way or another." Whether it was a threat to others or to herself, no one knew. But it rattled everyone. Amy's lawyers pushed back. They claimed the weapons weren't hers, that the state's case was built on theories, not facts.
I would like to address the shank or whatever the weapon that was found in the cell, first of all. I've talked to my client. I've gotten her side of this. She was in a cell with 2 other people. There were 4 bunk beds in there. Ms. Velarde kept her belongings on top of a bunk bed that wasn't in use. This shank, knife, whatever it was found in a drawer. They said it was her drawer, but none of her belongings were in that drawer. I don't know how people knew when the bond hearing was, because I didn't even tell Amy when the bond hearing was. I talked to her last Friday. She did not know when the bond hearing was. I could also point out that she was moved, I think, last Thursday. Thursday? Yes, ma'am. So she was moved last Thursday from one cell to another cell. And if she had a shank with her, she had to obtain it in that very short amount of time, or she had to transport it with her from one cell to another, without a bag, without any, with her clothes and belongings all in her hands. This is not a small weapon. I've seen a picture Ms. Weiss provided. It's not a small weapon. It would be hard to hide this. And I would also venture to say, with the comment that is in the report, if she said, "I'm getting out of here one way or the other," if she did say that, that doesn't imply that she's a danger to other people. It implies she's a danger to herself.
That Amy and Ross had 8 years to flee if they were guilty, and never did. But prosecutors had something more powerful than an escape attempt. They had a story built on motive, opportunity, inconsistencies, and chilling circumstantial evidence. A story of betrayal, of greed, of a daughter who stood to gain everything from the deaths of those who raised her. And now the world waits for a jury to decide if that story ends in conviction, or if the ghosts of Halloween night will continue to haunt Pendleton unresolved. The upcoming trial promises to be one of the most anticipated in South Carolina's recent history, not only because of the crime's brutality, but because of its layered complexity. A murder that destroyed an entire household. A case built without direct witnesses, missing weapons, and only circumstantial evidence connecting two of the most unlikely suspects, a daughter and her husband. In the public eye, opinions are split. Some see Amy as a cold, calculated manipulator who used her proximity and trust to orchestrate the perfect crime. Others still hold out hope that this is all a tragic misunderstanding, that the real killer is still out there, and that Amy and Ross are simply victims of a broken investigative system. But the details are hard to ignore. The exact matching serial numbers on the cash, the missing weapons, the A6 sneakers seen in the murder house, later worn by Ross on the night of the crime, then mysteriously vanished. The long-standing tensions, the history of resentment, and Amy's shifting stories over time. And then there's the most damning threat of all, the timing. In the weeks before the murders, Amy and Ross were spiraling. Their business was failing. Their car was being repossessed. They were drowning in debt. But within days of the murders, they had cash. Lots of it. Enough to silence their debts, start over, and pretend it was life savings from the military. It wasn't. It was blood money. And in December 2023, the justice system finally caught up. Still, the prosecution faces challenges. There is no DNA, no confession, no murder weapon. What they do have is a case built on a mountain of motives and inconsistencies, on the psychology of grief performed too well, and on the shadows of two elderly women who never had a chance to fight back. As the trial date approaches, one question echoes louder than all the rest. Can justice still be served nearly a decade after the crime? Or will Amy and Ross, bound by blood and marriage, slip through the cracks one more time? For now, the town of Pendleton waits, the families grieve, and the victims, Kathy, Mike, Violet, and Barbara, remain frozen in time, their story held in the silence between screams, awaiting a verdict. And when that day comes, the truth, whatever it may be, will finally speak. What began as a quiet Halloween evening ended in unspeakable tragedy. And what followed was nearly a decade of questions. Some whispered, others shouted, by a family shattered, a community haunted, and detectives who refused to let the case die. The trial will not just determine the fate of Amy and Ross Ballard. It will decide whether trust can be shattered beyond repair, whether a daughter could really orchestrate the murder of her own mother, her stepfather, and two fragile grandmothers, whether greed can override the deepest of bonds, family. The prosecutors have laid their cards on the table. This was no random act of violence. It was intimate, strategic, devastating. They believe Amy used her voice to lull her family into a false sense of safety, while Ross used his training to carry out a swift and merciless massacre. Together they planned the attack. Together they watched the family die. But the defense will argue otherwise. That suspicion is not proof. That a family's dysfunction doesn't equate to murder. That anyone under the microscope of a cold case for long enough can begin to look guilty. In the end, it will come down to 12 strangers, jurors who must decide whether the shadows cast by money, motive, and memory are enough to convict. And as they deliberate, they'll weigh not just evidence, but the weight of legacy. 4 lives extinguished, countless others changed forever. And so the tale of Pendleton's most horrifying night closes, for now, with a community still grappling with the unthinkable and a family left in ruins. What justice looks like in the end? Well, that's for the court to decide. Until then, the silence on Refuge Road remains. As the gavel prepares to fall, the air around Pendleton thickens with anticipation. The faces of Kathy, Mike, Violet, and Barbara linger not just in photo frames and memory, but in every courtroom moment. Their lives, their love, and their final terrifying hours cry out for justice. One last time. Whatever the verdict, this story will remain etched into the heart of South Carolina. A chilling reminder that sometimes the darkest monsters don't wear masks. They sit at the family table, and when the trial ends, whether it brings closure or more questions, one truth will endure. Not all ghosts haunt from beyond the grave. Some live next door. If you found this story compelling, heartbreaking, or eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime breakdowns just like this. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a case. Stay curious, stay safe, and take care of each other. See you in the next one. On May 5, 2023, a welfare check was requested. No one had seen or heard from Nicole in days. Packages sat untouched at her door. Her phone rang, unanswered. What seemed like a small concern quickly erupted into something much darker, because someone else was missing too.
One of our detectives coming over. Who knows where she's
Nobody's
at?
filed a missing persons complaint. No one's filed a missing person.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of phones back there. I called her phone and it was ringing. What if they have her phone? And they're just taking an answer of coming from a...
She's supposed to be kind of hard to get around. So it's not like the one lady said she kind of never leaves really here. She's just in this area, so...
Nicole Jones was the kind of woman many looked up to. At 53, she had spent decades working at Toledo Hospital as a phlebotomist, and now she was finally enjoying her golden years with her nieces, nephews, and her grown son Jonathan, a military veteran battling the ghosts of his past. Her life, while modest, was one of service, routine, and above all, family. That's why it was so strange, so deeply alarming, when she suddenly disappeared.
Jonathan Jones is who the kid is.
Okay.
And he's 33.
Yes.
Have you ever seen her here?
No.
All right. So that's the girl that the 17-year-old that he's with.
Okay. Who was the older gentleman then?
That's him.
That's the
This is the target. This is the guy that's wanted by Wood County.
Okay.
Jonathan. And alongside him, an underage girl with a record of running away and a history just as scarred as Jonathan's mind. Caitlin Coons was only 17, but her life had already read like a tragedy in motion. A child of abuse and instability, she bounced through the foster care system, slipping through the cracks at every turn.
And I know how to defend myself because I grew up in the hood of Ohio, so I know how to fight for myself. And I've been in fights with girls my age. That's the reason why I don't become friends with people my age, because it's just, no, I don't understand them.
Right. So I get it, and I have no doubt that you can defend yourself.
She ran often, chased no one's rules, and clung to the first person who made her feel wanted.
What's your first name? Jonathan. What's Jonathan? He was like, well, the two ages are really bad, And I was like, actually, I know it's actually legal in Mexico. As long as the only time someone can be with someone above the age of 18 is if they're doing something sexually, then the person has to be 18 for someone to be dating somebody above 18.
Even if that person was a 33-year-old man who should have known better, especially when the law was already watching him.
This one on this corner here?
It's definitely 7456. Yeah. We got 2 U.S. Marshals there. It involves a case out of Canton. So we're trying to check the safety of her. Has anybody seen her?
No. I've only seen a guy going in and out of there. Okay,
So would we have anything listed with the manager of people to contact for an emergency?
Well, I have all her phone numbers of people that live there, but it's her phone number.
Okay, but there's nothing listed when she moved in, like in an emergency, contact this person, nothing like that?
No.
So the only way we're going to get in is knocking the door down.
Jonathan Jones had been arrested just months earlier for child endangerment, among other charges, stemming from his illicit relationship with Caitlin. He had pleaded guilty and was waiting for sentencing, fitted with an ankle monitor, barred from contacting minors, forbidden from using the internet. But love, or obsession, laughed in the face of those restrictions. And that's when the story began to twist.
So what happened was this dude was on bond for Wood
The son.
County. The son.
Right.
he was supposed to show up for sentencing or something like that.
Okay.
This morning, the Border Patrol stops him in Douglas, Arizona.
Okay.
With a 17-year-old that's a missing juvenile.
And she's the one reporting the murder and arson.
But they also said they burned the house down too.
Right.
But obviously the house ain't burned down.
Right.
So right now.
So we have no idea where she is.
We don't.
Okay.
So I'm going to verify the plate comes back here of the car the border. So the Border Patrol stopped him and said, hey, we got this one guy here that's missing juvenile. And the sheriff's office down there, you know, they may have 2 or 3 guys. And
see if she's seen her.
They let him go.
Okay.
They're like, we don't have time. So now
did he go into Mexico or
I don't know. Okay. Now we're scrambling in the FBI. But then in the midst of that, they called and said this murder, but they have her car.
Okay.
So that's why.
So we verified that this is actually her car to this residence.
We're going to do that right now.
Okay.
We're firing up leads right now.
We got a lady that's going to check. Like you said, she's got phone numbers, and I think it's a number that's not the owner, but somebody else. And she's seeing a man going in and out of here.
That's probably her guy.
Somewhere along the line, Caitlin decided that nothing and no one would come between her and Jonathan. A child services worker received a text message, allegedly from Caitlin, confessing to 2 murders and arson. The claims were so shocking, so brutal, that at first they seemed impossible. Just a teenager playing games, a cry for help. But investigators didn't have the luxury of dismissing it, because what if she wasn't lying? As U.S. Marshals began tracing leads, it became clear Nicole Jones was not just missing, she was likely murdered, and the suspects weren't strangers. They were family. Soon the mystery stretched across some state lines, across borders, into Mexico, where 2 desperate fugitives, Jonathan and Caitlin, were found trying to sell jewelry on the side of the road. Nicole's jewelry. Alongside it, her ID, her credit cards, a backpack with what appeared to be blood. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, and the picture they painted was nothing short of horrifying. But even then, as Caitlin sat in custody, her story kept shifting. First denial, then blame, on hackers, on an ex-boyfriend, on the dark web. But eventually something cracked, and when it did, what spilled out was a confession darker than anyone could have imagined.
This is when my ex typed in right now. I can write you his name down here. This is crazy. This is the one that keeps texting me, and this is back from when I lived with him. He hacked my account. He works like on the dark web and stuff. What do you mean he works on the dark web? Like he works on the dark web. Like, you know, he hacks for people. No, but I want to know who killed her because she was a nice mom.
Like I think, you know, she hasn't been seen for a while, and it says we killed 2 people. We don't know that she's dead.
Okay, but you're putting that on me when I thought she was doing perfectly fine and everything. And I told you I didn't send those messages. He's been able to hack my account. So what we're trying to figure out.
A mother's last moments stolen as she reached for snacks in her own kitchen. And all of it done in the name of love, or something far more sinister. This is the story of how a twisted relationship and a teenage girl's obsession tore a family apart, left a mother dead, and sent 2 people to prison for life. It's about control, manipulation, and the chilling lengths people will go to in order to keep a grip on the ones they think they love. And worst of all, it's a story that ends without closure, because Nicole Jones's body has never been found. Before the headlines, before the border chases and jailhouse confessions, there was just a house on Timbers Edge Boulevard.
This information is third hand, but we know her car is in because we know the Border Patrol stopped that car down in Douglas, Arizona.
It's now in Mexico?
We don't know. They're trying to find it right now. They got an airplane up and they're trying to locate it and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so it was
But
verified
this is pretty concerning with the package out there and what they're saying.
Well,
and
we called the fire department to 4th Century.
Has she ever seen her?
She said she's odd.
Inside that house lived Nicole Jones and her son, Jonathan. Nicole was the kind of woman who went unnoticed by most until she went missing. Her life was simple, structured, full of quiet kindness. After decades working at Toledo Hospital as a phlebotomist, She had retired into a well-earned life of family and relaxation. Her world revolved around her son and her extended family, nieces, nephews, holidays, and Sunday dinners. There was no reason to think anything was wrong. Except, maybe there was. Jonathan Jones wasn't doing as well. At 33, he was a man caught between two worlds, the soldier he once was and the damaged man he had become. A veteran of the Afghanistan War, he returned home with invisible wounds, post-traumatic stress disorder, and a fractured sense of identity. From 2009 to 2013, he served his country. When he came back, he struggled to serve himself. Unable to keep a steady job, reliant on disability benefits, and back living with his mother, Jonathan's life had quietly unraveled. Still, Nicole did what mothers do. She supported him, housed him, and tried to protect him. She might have even believed she could help him get back on his feet, but she couldn't see what was coming, because into Jonathan's damaged life walked Caitlin Coons. Caitlin was 17 years old when the two met, troubled, volatile, and broken in ways that even her caseworkers struggled to understand. Placed in foster care after enduring a childhood marked by abuse and neglect, Caitlin had a reputation for running away.
And I know how to defend myself because I grew up in the hood of Ohio, so I know how to fight for myself. And I've been in fights with girls my age. That's the reason why I don't become friends with people my age, because it's just I don't understand them.
Right. So I get it, and I have no doubt that you can defend yourself.
This wasn't just a troubled teen with abandonment issues. This was someone willing to destroy anything that stood in her way, including the one person who had stood by Jonathan when no one else would. Nicole didn't know she was living with a fuse about to blow. The night Caitlin Coons crept back into the Jones home, everything was already set in motion. She didn't ring the bell or knock on the door. She didn't want Nicole to know she was there. Slipping through a window like a ghost of chaos, Caitlin entered quietly, determined and dangerous. This time, she wasn't just running away from foster care. She was running towards something darker. She had made up her mind. Caitlin issued the ultimatum with a cold clarity that belied her age. "You have 5 hours to kill your mom," she told Jonathan. Just 5 hours to destroy the only person who had ever truly taken care of him. When the 5 hours expired and Jonathan still hadn't acted, Caitlin took matters into her own hands. She grabbed Nicole by the neck and began to strangle her. Nicole, caught completely off guard, fought back, but Caitlin was relentless.
That you strangled her. How did you do that? Okay, where was she when that happened?
She was trying to get something out of the fridge, and I flipped her over and started doing it, and then I took the rock that I had, got right on the floor, and I just started throwing it at her head.
Is that what the scratches are on your arm?
I don't know what these are.
No. Remember, if you lift up your sleeve, the other ones, are they from her?
No.
No?
Oh, these are self-harm marks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did she fight at all? Yeah.
What?
Did she fight you at all?
She was very in shock, so she didn't fight. The only thing I remember is the hackling with blood up in her mouth.
The two struggled, a chaotic tangle of limbs and panic, until Nicole fell to the floor, gasping for breath. Caitlin didn't stop. She had come prepared. From her bag, she retrieved a rock. Yes, a rock. One she had brought for this very moment, and she used it. Over and over, she brought the rock down onto Nicole's head. The room went silent. The house, once a haven, was now a tomb.
Was that after she was hit with the rock? Did that happen?
Yeah, and then there was blood clots that started coming out of her.
Out of where?
I think it came out of her mouth. They were really big.
Okay. How long did you say that you strangled her for before you hit her with the rock?
I did it for 5 minutes, hit her with the rock, and then I kept strangling her. And then after that, after strangling her for a good, at least 10 minutes, I started banging really hard with the rock again.
Okay.
When Caitlin told Jonathan what she had done, he vomited. Maybe from shock, maybe from guilt, maybe from the sudden realization that the girl he thought he loved had just committed an unthinkable act. But he didn't run. He didn't call the police. Instead, he joined her in the aftermath. Together, they began to clean. They mopped, they wiped. They made a list of supplies and headed to the nearest Lowe's to buy tarps and bleach. In between, they stopped at McDonald's, because even killers get hungry apparently. Then they returned to the scene and continued scrubbing away the evidence of the horror they had just unleashed. Jonathan, who had been wearing an ankle monitor, knew their time was limited, so they stuffed Nicole's body into the trunk of her own car, a 2021 Buick Enclave, and took off. They drove aimlessly at first, uncertain of what came next until a plan began to form. They would run, far, fast, across state lines, out of the country, all the way to Mexico. But Nicole wasn't forgotten. Her blood still lingered in the house. Her car was gone, and soon her absence was noticed. On May 5th, police entered the home after a welfare check request.
Hi. Would you happen to be like the property manager?
Well, a property manager doesn't live here. Why would you need?
We were going to need to try to get into a house here on Timber's Edge, 7456. There's some circumstances where we need to check the interior.
Nobody has a key to anybody else's place.
Even the manager?
No.
All right.
I will make a call though.
Okay, if you would. And
What's the address?
7456 Timber's Edge.
7456, the one right here on the corner?
No, we're over here. Very first one coming in.
Oh, yeah, she has dementia really bad.
Who?
Okay, so if you're talking...
No, it's the very first one coming in.
We might have the wrong place.
No, it's not. It's the very first one on the left when you come in.
But she's saying there's a lady with the...
Okay, so, all right. So...
Where the black car is.
Oh, that one.
Yes.
You don't have keys, but I have not seen her in forever.
Okay.
We might have the wrong address, is what I'm saying.
Okay. This one on this corner right
Nope,
here?
it's definitely 7456.
Yeah.
We got 2 U.S. Marshals there. It involves a case out of Canton. So we're trying to check the safety of her. Has anybody seen her?
No. I've only seen a guy going in and out of there. Okay, so she...
So would we have anything listed with the manager of people to contact for an emergency?
Well, I have all her phone numbers of people that live there, but it's her phone number.
Okay, but there's nothing listed when she moved in, like an emergency, contact this person, nothing like that?
No.
So the only way we're going to get in is knocking the door down.
Yeah, now I will tell you the police had to come to a house over there next to mine, and they went through the sunroom.
The sunroom is open, but the door leading into the main place is locked.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you other than, I mean, I can get a phone number for the people that live there.
Maybe there's a gentleman's number?
There could be.
Okay, if you could.
I live around the corner, so let me go get it.
Okay.
I don't want to lock myself out here.
And do you think this one person you've never seen, does her neighbor
I've
know her?
seen her. I have not seen her in a long time. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Nicole was gone. The house was oddly clean, too clean. Her son was missing. Her car, too. And Caitlin Coons, the runaway teen with a past, and now, it seemed, a body count had vanished. Then came the text message. I just killed 2 people and did 2 arsons. I'm in deep trouble. That's when everything changed. The law no longer saw this as a missing persons case. It became a manhunt. Nicole's murder wasn't just senseless. It was calculated. Executed by a girl with a plan, a weapon, and a willingness to kill to keep what she wanted. But as they sped south in Nicole's stolen SUV, they didn't realize how quickly justice was closing in. By the time the authorities pieced together what had likely happened inside the Jones home, Caitlin Coons and Jonathan Jones were already gone, vanished like shadows at sunrise. Their destination was desperate and clear: Mexico. But their method? Sloppy, impulsive, and doomed from the start. They took off in Nicole's car, a shiny 2021 Buick Enclave that now carried something far heavier than luggage. Inside the trunk was the lingering memory of a murdered mother. And in the glove box, clues to a crime they couldn't wash away with bleach and tarps. Caitlin and Jonathan hit the road, stopping only for gas, cheap food, and the occasional pawn-worthy item.
So the money he saved up or whatever to, get there to Mexico. And we had a good experience. Like, we ate Mexican food, we stayed here and there, It was a good experience, but like I said, I thought we were good for the most part because I've seen like a lot of Tower and Policia.
Nicole's jewelry, once worn proudly by a woman who had survived hardship.
And what about the jewelry?
Nothing. I don't think anything fell about the jewelry. That's when we got stopped because we slept in the car. We woke up the next morning. We were about to go use the bathroom. That's when the Policia showed up.
What kind of jewelry were you trying to sell?
Like old ancient jewelry that I had. Not like ancient, sorry. It was like old jewelry, like charm bracelet, rings, like, you know, the rings that girls are.
Instead of jewelry that you had?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And raised a son, was now reduced to currency, peddled for cash on the roadside. But their greatest mistake wasn't the getaway vehicle or the paper trail they left behind. It was the belief that no one was watching. Jonathan's ankle monitor, still operational until he disabled it, had given authorities a rough map of his movement in the hours after Nicole disappeared. They tracked him to the southern border, and soon after, agents at Douglas, Arizona flagged a suspicious vehicle. A man in his 30s traveling with a teenage girl, driving a car registered to a missing woman. When questioned, Jonathan gave vague answers. Caitlin smiled, lied, spun stories about vacations and borrowed vehicles. But something didn't sit right. And when Mexican authorities later spotted the pair on the streets of Chihuahua, selling jewelry like drifters, the alarm bells went off. The two were picked up, disheveled, cornered, and holding items that clearly didn't belong to them. Nicole's ID, her credit cards, her belongings. A backpack with what looked like blood was found among their things. Marijuana too. It was enough to detain them, and that was all the law needed. Caitlin, being a minor and an American citizen, was returned across the border immediately. Jonathan followed soon after. Both were handed off to waiting detectives. The real questioning began. Caitlin tried to keep the mask on. First, she claimed the murder confession text wasn't hers. Someone hacked her account, she said. An ex-boyfriend, someone from the dark web, someone out to destroy her.
We don't know.
No, but I want to know who killed her because she was a nice mom.
I think, we know she hasn't been seen for a while, and it says we killed 2 people. We don't know that she's dead.
Okay, but you're putting that on me when I thought that she was doing perfectly fine and everything, and I told you I didn't send those messages. He's been able to hack my account.
So what we're trying to figure out is what happened and where she could be.
The excuses grew wilder with every breath, but detectives had heard it all before. They pressed, they pushed, they laid down the evidence piece by piece. Bloodstains, timelines, GPS tracking, confessions from others. Slowly, Caitlin unraveled, and when she did, it came out all at once. She described the murder, the 5-hour countdown.
Told him that I gave him 5 hours. I ran away from an independent living house, and I told him he had 5 hours, to kill her, and he told me that he couldn't do it because that was his mom, so he wouldn't do it. So I strangled her out, and I took her rock and banged her head a whole bunch of times. And then I told him about it, and he was shocked. So then I let him give him a moment. He threw up, and then we went to go get cleaning supplies that I cashed out and stuff. And then we cleaned up the body, cleaned up everything in the house. We disposed her body in a trash dumpster, and he couldn't do it, so I was the one that put the body in the trash. And then after that, we took his ankle thing off, and then we went on the run. And most of the way, he was really struggling with it because it was his mom, and he needed marijuana. And that's the reason why, there was marijuana gummies in the car when they tried to enter Mexico.
The way Nicole looked when she reached into the fridge, the way the rock felt in her hand, the cleaning, the fast food run, the escape. Jonathan, interviewed separately, didn't know Caitlin had already confessed, so he stuck to the script. My mom was fine, he said. She gave us the car, the jewelry, everything. It was a lie so flimsy, so desperate, it broke under the weight of its own absurdity. When detectives told him Caitlin had already talked, Jonathan broke down. He confessed to his part, not the killing, but the cover-up, the tarp, the McDonald's, driving around with his mother's body in the trunk before dumping her behind an apartment complex dumpster like discarded trash.
Something, I don't know exactly what it was, but definitely sounded like a voice struggling. A voice struggling? Yeah, like somebody getting hit or something. It just, like, through the door and everything, it just sounded like a, oh. What about an iron? We bought a mop, pine saw, bleach, a scrub brush. I think that was it. Then we went over to Lowe's and bought 2 tarps. Okay. One to grab the body and one to put in the back of the car. Actually, it was like a little deal they had going on for the 2 of them. Get 2 of them for like $20 or $15 or something like that. We did head out there to get something to eat because I needed to get out of the house and try to process everything. So we went up there for food again. So you had to walk there? Yeah. No, we drove up there with your mom? Yes. Okay. We went back to the house and we hung out until about midnight. Okay. And then we went to, I can't think of it.
Even then, the body was never found. And that perhaps is the darkest shadow that still looms over this case. The fact that Nicole Jones, a mother, a caregiver, a quiet figure in a quiet town, was murdered and discarded, and her remains never recovered. The news swept through Sylvania Township like wildfire. Shock gave way to grief. Grief gave way to outrage. Nicole's family was livid, especially when they discovered that police hadn't begun searching for her until days after she vanished.
I don't know, man.
I got one of our detectives coming over. Who knows where she's
Nobody's
at?
filed a missing persons complaint. No one's filed a missing person.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of phones back there. I called her phone and it was ringing. What if they have her phone? And they're just ain't going to answer if coming from them.
She's supposed to be kind of hard to get around, so it's not like the one lady said she kind of never leaves really here. She's just in this area, so.
They can.
Ping it?
Yeah. Like an emergency one. Emergency check.
Despite early warnings and obvious red flags. And Caitlin? She wasn't finished spinning stories. In one final twist, she claimed to have killed another person, someone in Arizona, in a drive-by.
I also killed another person in Arizona in a drive-by. I don't know who it was. Also committed 2 arsons in Arizona in the middle of nowhere. Don't know what that was either. I, loaded the gun and stuff and shot the person, and I left real fast, and then after that I washed off the residue of the gunpowder.
Are you certain that there are 16?
I don't know what happened. I just remember pulling out the gun out of the window and shooting.
Was it a male, woman, old, young?
I think it was a woman.
Do you remember how old she looked?
She looked old and she had glasses and she was by to the bus stop.
Is there a reason, that precipitated it, that made you do it?
I don't know. I was like, well, I killed someone, so I might as well kill another.
But no evidence surfaced, no bodies, no leads. Just more noise from a teenager who had already proven her capacity to destroy lives with lies and manipulation. As the authorities prepared to bring the 2 to justice, the courtroom would soon become the next battleground, and the trial would not only seek justice for Nicole, it would ask the terrifying question no one wanted to confront. How much blame does a minor bear when love turns into murder? When Caitlin Coons and Jonathan Jones stood before the court, they looked like opposites on paper. A teenage girl from a fractured past, a war veteran turned sex offender. But the crime that united them had erased any illusion of innocence or sympathy. Together, they were monsters in the eyes of the community, and now the justice system had to decide their fate. Caitlin was charged with aggravated murder and a list of accompanying felonies: abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and more. The fact that she was 17 did not grant her the mercy some might expect. She was charged as an adult. Her confession was too graphic, too deliberate, too chilling to ignore. Jonathan faced similar charges, also murder, despite not having physically committed the act. His crime was enabling, participating in the cover-up, and failing to stop what he knew was inevitable. His prior conviction involving Caitlin and the disturbing content on his devices painted a portrait of a man not just broken, but dangerous. He was no bystander. In the courtroom, Caitlin initially pleaded not guilty. Perhaps she hoped to convince the world she was a victim of manipulation herself, that she was pushed too far, that her actions were those of a traumatized girl trying to preserve love in the only way she knew how, by destroying its obstacles. But the evidence was insurmountable. There were GPS records, there were text messages, there were confessions, there was blood. There was no body true, but the trail they left behind was thick with digital and physical fingerprints. Every motion Caitlin made in the name of affection had been a step closer to annihilation. Eventually, she changed her plea to no contest. Jonathan did the same. The court accepted it, and in doing so, sentenced them both to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
Only happened after the completion of count 1 in aggravated murder, and therefore the court would be completely justified in putting that sentence as a consecutive sentence. But the agreement is a life sentence with parole eligibility after serving a full 25 years. And as Ms. Liptek-Wilson, as you just articulated, that was the spirit of the agreement. They will serve a 25-year sentence. And that would be the mandatory sentence.
A sentence that, while severe, also offered a sliver of hope, perhaps a controversial one, for redemption in a distant future neither could clearly imagine. Nicole's family sat in court, hollowed by grief, furious at a system that they felt failed them. In interviews, they described Nicole as someone who always put others first. Her kindness had been her undoing. She let Jonathan live in her home. She tried to keep him safe. She tried, even when he was falling into darkness, to be his anchor. Instead, she became his victim. Outside the courtroom, people speculated. Some believed Jonathan had played a more direct role in the killing than Caitlin admitted, that her confession, full of details, might have been part love, part strategy, to take the fall as a minor and protect her soulmate. It's a theory that still lingers, but legally it no longer mattered. What mattered was that a woman was dead, her body missing, and her killers locked away. What mattered was the trail of trauma, emotional, social, institutional, that this case carved through families, foster care, and the military community alike. A reminder that beneath the surface of every quiet home, danger might be waiting, not in strangers, but in those closest to us. The tale of Jonathan Jones and Caitlin Coons is not just another true crime to gawk at. It's a devastating examination of broken systems and broken people colliding in the worst possible way. It's about how unresolved trauma can morph into pathology, how vulnerability can become a weapon, and how obsession, especially when masked as love, can become deadly. Nicole Jones didn't die in a drug deal gone bad. She wasn't a victim of random violence. She was killed in her own kitchen by a girl who wanted her gone and by a son who failed to stop it. A son she sheltered, a son she fed, a son she trusted. Caitlin's story is equally tragic, not in justification, but in roots. A girl who never had a stable home, who learned early that manipulation was survival, who was denied protection by nearly every adult authority and then chose to become the predator herself. They were caught selling trinkets on a dusty Mexican roadside, as if running from the consequences meant they could start again. But justice crossed borders. Now they sit in separate cells, separated by concrete and iron and years of regret. Whether either of them truly understands what they did is a mystery. Whether they care is another. Nicole Jones, meanwhile, is still missing. Her remains never found. Her memory held tightly by a family who will never stop wondering where she is or why no one stopped this madness before it spiraled out of control. This is not a tale of lovers. It is a cautionary epic, a brutal reminder that darkness can bloom in the name of love. And sometimes the people you let into your home are the ones who will burn it to the ground.
Find her because, like, everybody's
concerned because they haven't talked to her. We're more concerned about, your daughter. Your daughter. How old's your daughter?
She's 1 year old. They came out, they said no car was in the driveway, no car was here. She's a mother of a 1 year old. She always shows up at work. She always contacts us. We haven't heard from her. This is really, really bad. We have a bad feeling.
The cold that Monday in early December 2019 wasn't just in the air. It hung in the silence, seeped into the cracked windows of an apartment that should have been warm with a mother's laughter and a child's footsteps. It had only been days since Christine Holloway celebrated Thanksgiving with her family, but now she wasn't picking up her phone.
He saw them this morning prior to Christine Holloway going to work.
I was concerned because it wasn't like her. She was always consistent, always on time or before time. And so I was just hoping nothing had happened to her.
A woman like Christine didn't just disappear, not without telling someone. By 1 p.m., the request for a welfare check was made. The address, 612 Myrtle Avenue, Ansonia, Connecticut.
The lieutenant also testified that when he went inside the home, he noticed windows that were open despite it being cold and snowing. And also, all of the sheets and bedding were gone from the bed and the crib.
One of the bay windows was open despite the frigid air, and the bathroom skylight was cracked. The door was locked, lights on, and no sounds of movement. Officers knocked, no answer. Knocked again, still silence. Then the decision. Force entry.
We're going to attempt to make entry. Police find it.
The first step inside confirmed their unease. The apartment had the eerie calm of a place frozen in time. A single pink baby shoe, a half-eaten meal, children's toys neatly placed. But it was what they found in the bathroom that tore through the silence with a vengeance. Christine Holloway, 43, was found lifeless in the bathtub.
When I walked into the bathroom, I noticed in the tub a pale, naked female body laying in there.
Oh shit! What? Fuck, dude. What? Holy shit! Get the DB here. Holy fuck. Okay. Find back out. No, clear the room. Clear the house.
Bloodied, brutally beaten, and partially undressed, her body told a story of violence and cruelty. But even more terrifying, Vanessa was nowhere to be found.
Today, the identity of the female victim found inside 6.5 Myrtle Avenue on Monday, December 2nd, 2019, was positively identified as Christine Marie Holloway, age 43, the mother of Vanessa Morales, our missing 1-year-old baby. Vanessa Morales is still missing, and we, along with the FBI, Derby Police, Connecticut State Police, are still following leads to locate Vanessa to return her home safely.
What began as a wellness check now turned into a manhunt and a murder investigation. Where was the child?
The emotions are still raw for the family of Christine Holloway and Vanessa Morales. The now 2-year-old baby girl has been missing for a year. Her family still has hope that she can return home safely.
It's all very surreal still, and, every day we just we just hope that Vanessa comes home.
Who had done this and why?
But we want to thank everybody that's trying to find Vanessa, and hopefully someday it's going to be a very good story.
As police secured the scene, attention turned to Christine's boyfriend and Vanessa's father, Jose Morales. He'd told Christine's brother and sister-in-law he saw her that very morning, leaving for work with Vanessa in tow.
A girl here that's saying that she's the sister of Christina Holloway? Alright. Is that Christina your girlfriend? Yeah. Okay. She's saying that she couldn't contact her all day today. She said that she talked to you today, and that you said you saw her leave this morning. I saw her leave early in the morning to go to work. That's about it. Who was she with when she left?
But now, when pressed by police, his story began to shift. He hadn't seen her that day, he corrected himself, only spoke to her by phone.
Oh, then that is, you guys both left her house together this morning. No, I talked to her. Okay, so you talked to her this morning. Yeah. At 7 o'clock when she was leaving for work. Yes. When's the last time you saw her? Friday.
And he wasn't sure about the new car, despite having helped her pick it out a week earlier. Inconsistencies piled up quickly. Surveillance footage caught him outside Christine's apartment. Neighbors saw him leaving that same day, after Christine was already dead. DNA from the scene was tested. Jose's clothing was taken. A small bruise, knuckle abrasions, faint scratches, and a swollen cheek, all signs of a recent struggle. Yet he offered no answers about Vanessa, showed no urgency to help, and seemed more concerned about the police car's comfort than his daughter's safety. Then came the 911 call.
What number house on Myrtle Ave? Where are you on Myrtle Ave? Where are you on Myrtle Ave? What number?
Placed at 2 a.m. on Saturday, December 1st, from a phone registered to Jose Morales. The caller slurred something about Myrtle Avenue before a woman's voice interrupted. "Stop! Hang up! Who are you calling?" The line disconnected. No address was given. Officers drove by the area that night but found nothing unusual. They didn't know a murder had already taken place. Days later, a donation bin near a local church revealed a new horror. Bags filled with baby items soaked in blood, mixed with Christine's mail. Among the stuffed animals and toys, a second baby shoe, a match for the one found near the crib. For investigators, the puzzle was nearly complete. But one piece remained heartbreakingly missing. Vanessa. Jose Morales insisted he was innocent, that two strangers had broken in, murdered Christine, and kidnapped his daughter while he lay unconscious from PCP. He changed his story, then changed it again. But none of it added up. Not with surveillance footage, not with phone data, not with the trail of discarded baby clothes and beer cans left behind. Christine Holloway's murder would see justice, but Vanessa Morales, just 14 months old, had vanished into thin air, and the one person who might know where she is isn't talking.
What does she drive? Mazda Protege 2002. 2002 Mazda Protege? What color is it? Gold. Gold? Yeah. Who has the Ford Fusion, do you know? Or the Ford Focus? No, I don't know. Does she have another car, a black car? No, not that I know. Nothing you know of?
Christine Marie Holloway was 43 years old, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a teacher, and most importantly, a mother. Her greatest joy, however, came in late 2018 when she became a mother to Vanessa Morales. The arrival of her daughter brought fulfillment to a long-held dream. Vanessa quickly became Christine's whole world. Every photo, every moment, every conversation was colored by the love she had for her baby girl. Everything seemed fine, or at least uneventful. But then Monday came, and Christine didn't show up for work. That morning, her coworkers waited. They texted, they called. Nothing. It was completely out of character. Christine never missed a day without a reason. Something was deeply wrong. Rosie Clark, the owner of the daycare and Christine's employer, called Christine's family to check in. No one had heard from her. That's when Rosie did what no one ever wants to do. She called the police and requested a welfare check. The address was 612 Myrtle Avenue.
We're going to attempt to make entry. Police find it? Unsure. Police found it? Please. Police found it? Oh shit! What? Oh fuck, dude. What? Holy shit! Get the DB here. Holy fuck. Okay. Find back out. No, clear the room. Clear the house. 430 you. I'm going to need you here.
Today, the identity of the female victim found inside 6.5 Myrtle Avenue on Monday, December 2nd, 2019, was positively identified as Christine Marie Holloway, age 43, the mother of Vanessa Morales, our missing 1-year-old baby. Vanessa Morales is still missing, and we, along with the FBI, Derby Police, Connecticut State Police, are still following leads to locate Vanessa to return her home safely.
Christine lived in a modest apartment above a detached garage. When officers arrived, they immediately noticed something off. Her new black Ford Focus was parked in the driveway, a car Jose had helped her buy just a week earlier. But the apartment's bay window was open, despite the freezing winter air. The skylight in the bathroom was cracked open too. Lights were on, but no one came to the door. They knocked, no answer. They knocked again, still nothing. With the apartment sealed from within and no movement detected, police made a decision. They forced their way in. What they found would forever change the trajectory of the case. The home looked peaceful at first glance. Toys were neatly stored. A baby shoe sat near the crib. A faint scent of candles lingered. But the tranquility ended the moment they reached the bathroom. Christine Holloway was found inside the bathtub. Her body was bloodied and bruised. She had been attacked with what investigators would later determine was a blunt object, possibly a hammer. Her injuries were extensive, and the scene told a story of violence and an attempted cover-up. But the most haunting detail? Vanessa, just 14 months old, was gone. No child, no sound, no trace. What had started as a welfare check spiraled into a full-blown homicide investigation and missing persons case. And as police tried to piece together Christine's final moments, one name kept resurfacing: Jose Morales, the last known person to be with them before they vanished from the world. Surveillance footage from neighbors painted an even more disturbing picture. Multiple witnesses reported seeing Jose at Christine's apartment over the weekend. One said he was there Saturday morning, placing a car seat into a vehicle with a little girl, likely Vanessa. Another saw him leaving the apartment Monday afternoon, after police had already tried to contact Christine. When police brought Jose in for questioning, his demeanor was off. He talked about how nice the police car was, how he didn't drink or do drugs, comments that seemed wildly out of place. When they asked about his daughter, he showed little concern.
We're not that close. It's like, we have a baby, but it's not like she my girlfriend. Might help her out a little bit. So we didn't know with the baby. So they're come over and stay over our house and holiday and things like that for the baby.
So you do all that for Vanessa?
Yeah, it's for
it's not for Christine.
It's not for Christine. It's for Vanessa. Yes, I agree.
So your family likes it.
And when they searched his body, they found abrasions on his knuckles, scratches on his arms, and a visible bruise on his chest. He was released for the time being, but detectives continued to dig.
Where did that come from? I don't know. What about that? Where did that start from?
Soon they uncovered a call made at 2 a.m. Saturday morning, December 1st. The 911 call came from Jose Morales' phone, connecting to a tower near Christine's apartment. The call lasted 1 minute and 14 seconds. A male voice slurred the words Myrtle Avenue. A woman's voice interrupted, "Stop! Hang up! Who are you calling?" Then the call ended. Police went to the area that night, but with no exact address, they found nothing. Days later, a shocking discovery was made at a donation bin outside St. Michael's Church. Inside several trash bags were baby toys, stuffed animals, clothing, and even Christine's mail, all soaked in a blood-like substance. Among the items was a diaper genie, a bloody towel, and Vanessa's second missing pink crock. The bins had been emptied by a charity employee who found the items so disturbing she immediately called police. DNA tests on the items confirmed Christine's blood. Some items had unclear DNA, but none had any trace of Vanessa. Despite mounting evidence, Jose Morales maintained his innocence. He now claimed that on Saturday night, 2 unknown men broke into the apartment, knocked him unconscious, murdered Christine, and kidnapped Vanessa. He claimed he had been high on PCP and had little memory of the night. But the physical evidence, the cleanup, the surveillance, the donation bin drop, told another story. This wasn't a break-in. This was personal. Christine's blood was found on items in Jose's car. His cell phone data placed him at the scene. And the final damning fact, he never reported Vanessa missing. The pieces of this horrific puzzle were falling into place. The only thing still missing was Vanessa. The trial of Jose Morales was as much about the facts as it was about the story he tried to tell. In spring 2025, more than 5 years after Christine Holloway's murder and the disappearance of Vanessa Morales, Jose stood in court facing charges of murder and tampering with evidence. By that time, the public had already heard parts of his bizarre defense. Claims of PCP-fueled blackouts, shadowy intruders, and fragmented memories that, he insisted, explained his behavior and the gaps in his timeline.
You indicated that you had gone outside to smoke, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you were smoking PCP at that time.
Objection,
Your Honor, again. He's, at this point, we're restating the testimony.
Okay, overruled. We took a break, counsel. You may continue.
I did.
You were smoking PCP?
I did, yes.
Okay, and what effect did the PCP have on you?
Well, it made me lose my focus. I got blurry, disoriented. I lost my balance. I couldn't see clear.
Okay. And then you said, I believe we left off that you had testified that you went back into the apartment. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and you went into the bathroom area. And I think that's where we left off, Your Honor. Okay, great.
The prosecution painted a starkly different picture. They described Jose as jealous, controlling, and emotionally volatile. A man struggling with unemployment, personal failure, and the weight of fatherhood he hadn't wanted. A man who had spent Thanksgiving with Christine and their daughter, then watched his world spiral. They argued that on the night of the murder, he attacked Christine in a fit of rage, cleaned up the scene, and disposed of any evidence that could tie him to Vanessa's disappearance.
What steps did you take?
That's when I left the apartment again and went back to the gas station.
Okay, the Shell gas station?
Yes, the Shell gas station.
What happened there?
I purchased another Black & Mild.
Okay. And what'd you do after the gas station?
I drove right back to the apartment.
Okay. And what'd you do when you got to the apartment?
Bathroom.
Okay. And what happened?
While I was in the bathroom, I was smoking the Black & Mild. I was feeling extremely sad, and the way that Christine was looking in the hallway. So I didn't want nobody to see her like that. So I left the bathroom, I gathered myself up, I left the bathroom, went into the hallway, and I grabbed Christine, and before I left the bathroom, the idea was to bring Christine and put her in the tub. I grabbed the curtain, I flipped it over, the pole, I went into the hallway, I gently grabbed Christine and I placed it in the tub.
Okay. And do you know approximately what time that was?
In between 9 and 1, before 1 o'clock.
Okay.
On Sunday morning.
After you placed...
I'm sorry, on what morning?
Sunday.
Sunday morning you're talking about now?
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, Sunday.
That would have been December 1st. Okay, so you placed Christine in the tub. Okay?
Yes.
Just tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what did you do next in the apartment?
Once I did that, I closed the bathroom door, and now I'm inside the apartment, and I see the blood all over the hallway floor and by the door entrance, and I went and I grabbed the bucket from under the sink with towels, and I filled it up halfway, almost more than halfway, and I started cleaning because when I was walking around, I have left footprints from the blood in the carpet. So I started just cleaning the blood that was on the tiles, and I cleaned it up with the bucket, and I was dumping the water from the bucket into the garbage disposal. So as I was cleaning the floor, it was garbage. It was whatever was on all over the area, whatever I was scooping up from the floor, I was dumping it into the garbage disposal.
Where was the garbage disposal located, sir?
In the kitchen area next to the sink.
Next to the sink, okay. So you immediately cleaned up that area?
I did. I cleaned the area that had the big, where it was a lot of blood. Because it was blood in many different spots, and there was droplets of blood around. So I did the floor area.
Okay.
And the carpet.
They reminded the jury of the facts. Christine had been bludgeoned with what was likely a hammer. Her body had been moved. Blood had been cleaned from the walls. Her DNA was found in Jose's car, in a trash bag, and even in a donation bin. Surveillance showed him coming and going from the apartment that weekend. Yet he never once called 911 about his daughter's disappearance, until asked about it. When Jose took the stand in his own defense, his story shifted again. Now he recalled 2 intruders forcing their way into the apartment late Saturday night. According to him, he was in the bathroom, high on PCP, when he saw the men approaching. He tried to warn Christine, but was struck unconscious.
Tell us what happened next, what your observations were, what happened next.
So I called 911. I don't know how much time went by. Seconds. I felt hit. I got hit on the right side of my face. I lost my balance. I already had no balance to begin with. I lost my balance. I fell. I tried to lean on the little kitchen island. I couldn't get to it because I was not that close to it. So I fell. I got on my floor, on my knees and my hands, and I got hit right around my chest area. I stood there, laid out on the floor, high, extremely in a daze from I had just finished smoking a blunt. So at the same time, I'm listening, but I'm on the floor and I can hear that there's a struggle going on in the bed area. There's a fight. I hear screams. At the same time, I hear that somebody leaves the apartment. I see that somehow Christine got away from whoever it is that she was fighting with and tried to run out the apartment to go after the guy that left the apartment with Vanessa. The guy that she was struggling with was chasing her.
He awoke to the sound of her struggling and eventually to silence. Vanessa was gone. Christine was dead. He claimed he panicked, afraid the men would return and harm his daughter if he went to the police. The jury listened, but they also watched. They noted how, despite claiming severe intoxication, Jose was able to recall minute details, his movements, Christine's screams, even where he fell. He demonstrated these actions using a diagram of the apartment, placing himself carefully in each moment of chaos.
Can you put the diagram? Yeah.
What do you want to see?
The one inside the apartment.
You want to see the
other one. The one that's over there, yeah, that one.
Okay, I'm sorry. So this is Exhibit D?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You can use this if you want to explain. Thank you.
So from the little kitchen area right there, the kitchen island, that's where I was at, in the living room area. And I hear the struggle going on in the bed area.
This is notated the bed over here.
Yes. I'm on the floor. Over there by the kitchen island. And I hear that somebody leaves the apartment first while Christine is still struggling by the bed area. Okay. She gets away from the person that she's struggling with and run towards the outside.
Towards the door area?
Yeah, towards the door area.
Okay. Where it says
where it says entrance? Yes, but she doesn't get that far.
Okay.
She gets to in between the carpet and the tiles.
Right,
And
let's go slow. Hold on. There's a checkerboard.
that's the tiles.
Hold on. Just hold on. I know you're anxious.
All right, okay.
In the front of the doorway, was that area tiled?
Yes,
Okay, right up to the end of the closet and the bathroom?
yes, yes, correct.
And what about in the center area of the living room? Was that tiled?
No, that's carpet.
All right, okay. Now, we're oriented. Go ahead. You continue what you saw.
So I'm on the floor. Christine running towards the outside of the apartment. She either tripped or collapsed. By the half of her body's on the towel, the other half of the body's on the carpet.
Prosecutors tore into that narrative. They pointed to the 911 call, slurred, yes, but clearly placed from his phone, and confirmed to originate near Christine's apartment.
Your Honor, we're going to play Exhibit 162 at this juncture with the court's permission.
That's fine.
Mr. Morales, can you identify whose voice is on State's Exhibit 162?
Yes, that's my voice.
That's you calling on one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What number Myrtle? What number house on Myrtle Ave? Where are you on Myrtle Ave? Where are you on Myrtle Ave? What number? Hello? 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 Hello?
Thank you. Mr. Morales, you hear a female voice in the background. Can you identify for the jury whose voice that was?
That's Christine's voice.
Okay, so
They reminded the jury that Jose's story changed repeatedly. First, that he never saw Christine after Friday. Then he saw her Monday. Then he spoke to her only by phone. They emphasized his behavior in the police car, commenting on the ride, joking with officers, never once asking where his daughter was. Perhaps the most damning blow came from Hector Rodriguez, Jose's so-called alibi. Hector initially said they'd spent the entire weekend together, but under pressure, he admitted that Jose had asked him to lie. The truth? Jose had come and gone throughout the weekend. His phone, his movements, and surveillance all aligned with that revised account. Jose's defense admitted to the tampering with evidence, but clung to the idea that he hadn't killed Christine. There was no murder weapon, they argued. DNA under Christine's fingernails didn't match him, but the jury wasn't swayed. The physical evidence might not have screamed guilt on its own, but the circumstantial evidence shouted it. After just a day and a half of deliberations, the jury returned their verdict: guilty of murder. Jose Morales showed little reaction as the verdict was read. The judge set sentencing for July 8, 2025, where he faces up to 65 years in prison.
Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that precludes every reasonable hypothesis except guilt and is inconsistent with any other rational conclusion.
As of that moment, he had made no further statements about Vanessa's whereabouts. Her name was barely mentioned in his testimony. For Christine's family, the verdict brought some relief, but not closure. Justice for Christine, yes. But justice for Vanessa? That remained painfully out of reach. The trial had ended, but for the people who loved Christine and the child still missing, the story was far from over. Though the trial ended with a verdict, what lingered was the ache of uncertainty. Vanessa Morales was still missing, and the question haunted every headline, every interview, every pause in Christine's family's voice. Where is she? In the months after the conviction, investigators continued searching. They re-examined evidence, revisited witness statements, and sifted through tips. Some credible, most not. Flyers were still posted, online petitions still circulated, and Christine's family kept speaking publicly, refusing to let Vanessa's name fade. The FBI's $10,000 reward for information remained active, and yet no one came forward. No trace of the toddler was ever found. Jose Morales, now convicted of murder, offered nothing. No confession, no explanation, no apology. Despite overwhelming evidence tying him to Christine's death and the calculated disposal of items tied to Vanessa, he clung to his story. 2 unknown intruders, a drug-induced blackout, fragments of memory that conveniently absolved him. And while legal experts debate the plausibility of PCP hallucinations, Christine's family never doubted the truth. They believe Jose knows exactly what happened to Vanessa. Christine's sister, Anna, has become the voice of hope and heartbreak. She has appeared in interviews, written statements, and appealed to the public, never wavering in her conviction that Vanessa could still be out there.
I would like to thank all the law enforcement agencies involved with searching for my baby niece, Vanessa Morales. My name is Anna. I'm Vanessa's aunt. We, the family, would like to ask for everyone in our communities and beyond us to help bring baby Vanessa home safely.
Her belief is rooted in the silence, because if Vanessa had died that night, why hide her body? Why remove every item connected to her and erase her presence so thoroughly? That question remains the beating heart of the mystery, and so the search continues. In April 2025, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age progression photo of Vanessa. She would be nearly 6 years old now.
Tim, Margot, yes, right now what's happening right now in Ansonia is family members and friends and members of the community are handing out these flyers with Vanessa's picture on them, 4 pictures of Vanessa, all trying to find her, trying to spread the word here. We have not seen these pictures yet, so take a good look. There are some really, really clear photos of her face. She has brown hair and brown eyes, and that's right, family members have met here in Ansonia to spread the word about this, and I'm joined right now by Vanessa's cousin, Joshua. Joshua, tell us a little bit about what has been going through the family's mind these past few days.
It's very hard on my grandparents, and I could only imagine the other side of the family. We just want her home at any means necessary. We just want her home safe, healthy. I mean, Christmas is coming. Like, you know, she got to have her second Christmas, you know what I mean? And it's cold out here. And it's so much things going on in the world, and we would never think it would happen to your own.
Attention quickly turned to Jose Morales. His statements to police were inconsistent from the start. Initially, he told Christine's family that he saw her Monday morning, leaving for work with Vanessa. But when police called him, he changed his story. He hadn't seen her since Friday evening after Thanksgiving. Then he claimed he had only spoken to her on the phone Monday morning, not in person. These shifting timelines raised red flags immediately. Police noted more inconsistencies. When asked what car Christine drove, Jose said she still had her old gold Mazda. In reality, she had replaced that vehicle a week earlier with a black Ford Focus, something Jose had helped her pick out. He acted like he had no knowledge of the new car, despite having been with her at the dealership. Surveillance footage from neighbors painted an even more disturbing picture. Multiple witnesses reported seeing Jose at Christine's apartment over the weekend. One said he was there Saturday morning, placing a car seat into a vehicle with a little girl, likely Vanessa. Another saw him leaving the apartment Monday afternoon, after police had already tried to contact Christine. Christine Holloway was a woman of kindness, faith, and devotion. Her life was rooted in love for her daughter, her family, her students. She should have been protected. She should have grown old watching Vanessa grow up. Instead, she became the victim of one of Connecticut's most haunting crimes. And her daughter? She became the center of a mystery that has yet to be solved. Jose Morales now waits for sentencing, likely to spend the rest of his life in prison. But for Christine's family, And for the investigators who worked tirelessly on this case, justice will remain incomplete until Vanessa is found. And so we ask, if you know anything at all, contact the Ansonia Police Department or the FBI tip line. Even the smallest piece of information could bring Vanessa home, because somewhere out there, a little girl may still be waiting. If this story moved you, if it made you think twice about the hidden dangers in seemingly ordinary lives, please like this video, comment with your thoughts or any leads you might have. Subscribe to stay updated on this and other true crime investigations. Together, we can help keep stories like Christine's alive and maybe, just maybe, find answers that have been lost for too long.
Hi, Candace.
Hi, Candace.
Justin, Dylan's dad.
You didn't see anybody else around here? His truck is there.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes it so weird.
It was supposed to be a normal morning in the heart of rural Utah. Just another dusty sunrise breaking over vast fields and distant mountain ranges. 19-year-old Dylan Rounds, a determined young farmer with a dream and a future, disappeared without a trace. His parents had seen the passion in his eyes. Friends described him as dedicated, hardworking, and full of life. His boots were found, strangely placed, 400 yards from his trailer. Not worn, not tossed randomly. It was the first clue in what would become one of the most haunting missing person cases in recent Utah history.
Those two boots out there, they're brand new. Like they've only been out there. They're the same color leather as your boots, and they're the same ones he wears. So we're just curious of why his boots would be out there. Same size he wears. They've only been out there probably for a day or two.
As the hours turned to days, suspicion began to settle like dust in the air. At the center of it all was a man named James Brenner, a grizzled 60-year-old farmer who lived off the grid and off the radar.
And he got screwed up, and it's just one thing after another. But he's a friend of mine.
Sure. You don't get rid of friends. Nobody's heard from him. So,
well, that's not uncommon for Dylan.
I don't trust him very much. I'm not saying he did it.
Still, without hard evidence, there was no arrest. And that's when Dylan's father, Justin Rounds, took matters into his own hands.
But as we were coming, you guys saw these fans all rushed back here. I took some pictures, sent them to show. Everybody was telling everybody not to touch them, but we got a hammer to see if it was the size of Dylan, and it's not. It's a bigger size of pants, and I texted Brian that.
Okay. This is a story about more than murder. It's about how a remote farming community unraveled in the face of secrets and silence.
Like I say, he was here. He had to have been here. Brought the truck here.
Yeah, that would make sense.
It's about a father's refusal to stop searching. And it's about how the smallest pieces, like a pair of boots, a cracked phone, or a neighbor's whisper, can break open the darkest truths. Dylan Rounds wasn't your average 19-year-old. While many teenagers were navigating college dorms and part-time jobs, Dylan had chosen a path few dared to tread. He was building a life from the soil, alone, determined, and relentlessly optimistic. Farming wasn't a family inheritance for him, it was a personal mission, one he had taken on in one of the most desolate regions of the western United States, Lucin, Utah. Lucin isn't a place that shows up on most maps. It's a ghost town, literally. Abandoned railways, forgotten roads, and long stretches of desert brush define the area. It's the kind of place where you can drive for hours without seeing another soul. No neighbors, no streetlights, no police presence, just vast empty land and silence. For Dylan, this isolation wasn't a disadvantage, it was a challenge. He saw promise in Lucin's emptiness, a place to carve out a legacy from nothing. He was leasing farmland, building irrigation systems, and maintaining heavy equipment. He poured his savings into fuel, grain, and gear. He wasn't playing at being a farmer. He was one. But that kind of independence, in a place that remote, comes with risk. You rely on the people around you, even when there aren't many. One of those people was James Brenner. James was older, 60 years old, with a face weathered by the desert sun and years of hard labor. He had a reputation in the area, not all of it good, a loner with a checkered past, former criminal charges, a man more at home with firearms and tools than people. When Dylan offered him a place to stay on the property, some raised their eyebrows, but Dylan believed in giving people a shot. And in the desert, even bad company can feel like companionship. Brenner worked odd jobs. He helped with the farm, sometimes kept an eye on things. He seemed harmless enough until he wasn't. Then there was Kurt Wadsworth, another local name that surfaced once Dylan vanished. People whispered about him. Strange habits, rumors of grooming, questionable behavior at bars. He had a reputation that had traveled farther than he had. Some said he lived at the Saddle Sore bar. Others said he had been close to Dylan. Too close. Justin Rounds, Dylan's father, found himself thrust into a role he never imagined. He became a detective, search team, and media spokesperson all at once. He chased leads, confronted suspects, and went places no parent ever should, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Hi, Candace.
Hi, Candace.
Justin, Dylan's dad. So right up here at these yards is his last known location. His camper is about 4 miles back up this way by his pond, and we're really thinking he might have taken off across. Because there's been no phone calls on his phone.
Yeah, I did get it.
Okay.
Last location was 15.4 miles from the coal mine tower, which puts him on this back road.
So I wonder if he's would that him walking? Okay, that's, I know my son, and that's the shortest route to his camp.
If he walked, the road ends right out there. If he walked, he would come from the corner, cut across this field.
But that's as close as cell phone peak. Not in town, it's out here.
Mm-hmm. Off of that road, the back road into the compound.
Did we go down to where it is?
Yeah, heads out there to the camp.
But that's where the peen was.
That's where the peen was.
He was out there?
Yeah.
So are you guys, Dylan, Clement's grandfather?
This Don.
So, what's your name? Don Haley. Don and Jim Brenner.
I've been down to his place twice. I'm down yesterday afternoon, looked around. Hadn't been in his bed. His ticket's locked. All the equipment is supposed to be there.
How far is this trailer open?
He never locks it. Doesn't lock anyway. Today I took Jim down there with me and we did a little more thorough search.
And he wasn't in the camper? Doesn't look like anybody's been around?
Nope. I checked. It's been raining off and on since Saturday, so any fresh tracks were kind of missed out.
Yeah.
He was on that back road down there. We had to go look that way. I didn't realize it.
I don't know how. Can you guys show us? I mean,
know
we're
how
not.
we would do it though, and he had the green truck. No.
Walking.
That doesn't mean that's his exact location. That's the closest cell phone.
That's the last ping for whether he tried to use it or last location it updated before it died.
What time was that? Does it tell you?
That was at 14:58.
So right after
just before 3 o'clock.
Right after you left. Yeah. So he must have pulled in right behind you, dropped off the grain truck, and I'm telling you, I bet you he took off walking.
It was as if the desert itself had swallowed the truth. But the truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface. And in this story, it would come not from the police, but from a cracked cell phone pulled from a murky pond, waiting to tell its story. It started with something small, something easy to miss. A time-lapse video, just a few seconds long. Captured, unintentionally or not, on a cracked phone found at the bottom of a shallow pond behind James Brenner's trailer. The frame was static, the lighting poor, but what it revealed sent a shiver down the spine of everyone who saw it. James Brenner stood in front of the camera, calm, methodical. He wasn't looking at the lens. He wasn't trying to hide. He was cleaning weapons, bloodied weapons. His shirt was stained. His hands moved with a disturbing sense of routine. There was no panic, no urgency, just quiet resolve. The timestamp, 7:27 a.m., May 28, 2022. Just 30 minutes after Dylan Rounds had last texted his grandmother. That video changed everything. For weeks, Dylan's disappearance had been shrouded in uncertainty. Rumors, suspects, dead ends. It had felt like chasing ghosts across a barren land. But this was concrete.
Hello.
What can I do for you?
Well, I was just wondering if you could walk me through where his truck was, or is, I guess, the grain truck.
Grain truck, right there.
Okay.
That's where it was. Well, I pulled it out, straightened it out, and backed it in.
Okay.
And when I come back that night, it was there.
Okay.
And next morning, there was 2 sets of tracks. Grain truck coming in, and there was another set leaving. It was like a smaller truck dually.
Okay.
That was heading out.
Okay. All right. Well, do you mind if we go take a look see if somebody overstepped or?
There's been like 300 people climbing all over that, but go ahead.
It's okay. It just helps us scratch it off the list.
Yeah.
So
they said they found his boots out. That's Dylan's fuel right there. That truck right there, I brought that into Montello last month.
Okay. What kind of truck is that?
It's a gray Chevy.
So,
that here right there.
Oh, okay. So it's the old 6.2?
Yeah, it's extended cab.
Yeah.
And that son of a bitch should be checked out.
Okay. Yeah, you gave me the list of names.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is it?
This is it. I just got them. Move that out of the way. I got that there so my horse don't get in there.
Oh, okay.
See what he did when Dylan backed in? He must have been in a hurry. He knocked my stall. I had a.
Oh, I see the broken wood.
I had a post right here, and this was the gate, and he backed into it and busted out. So I don't want my horse running around in the shop.
Right.
He moved all my stuff over. I was building a chicken coop right here. He was in a hurry, and because I guess it was raining, he wanted to get this under cover.
Is there something in this?
Yeah, there's Tetracal.
Okay. So if it was raining, he'd be in a hurry.
Yeah, and they kept saying that he walked. I don't see it. First of all, if he was going to walk, I don't know if you're familiar with this area, but right over there, you walk up there a little bit, you can see Jay Tanner's solar panels.
Yeah, I saw those.
And he would have walked that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or, kind of that way. The ground is good over there.
Okay.
Down this way, there's tumbleweeds this high.
Yeah, I've driven around over there.
Yeah, so.
All right.
A rage so cold and calculating that it pushed him to kill. Authorities later searched Brenner's trailer. What they found was damning. Multiple firearms, ammunition, black powder, caps, everything needed for the weapons seen in the video. Every piece matched. Every bullet spoke to the same chilling truth. Still, the most painful part remained. Dylan's body had yet to be found. Brenner was arrested and charged. But without Dylan's remains, justice felt incomplete. It would take 2 more years, 2 long, agonizing years, before the final piece of the puzzle was revealed. In a moment of unexpected remorse, or perhaps pressure, James led police to a secluded location. And there, buried beneath layers of earth and time, they found Dylan. For his family, it was the closure they had begged for, but not the ending they had hoped. The entire case had unraveled in a place where time seems to stand still. A ghost town, a stretch of desert, and a murderer who recorded his own guilt. The crime was never one of passion. It wasn't spontaneous. It was deliberate, calculated. And in the end, it wasn't solved by sophisticated technology or elite investigators. It was solved by a grieving father, a tight-knit community refusing to forget, and a cracked phone that refused to stay silent. James Brenner would be sentenced to 30 years in prison, but the true sentence is the one carried by Dylan's family. A lifetime of what-ifs, of birthdays missed, of dreams cut short. Dylan was more than a victim. He was a dreamer, a builder, a young man who believed he could grow life in a land others had abandoned. And maybe, in the way his story now echoes beyond the desert, he still is. The desert doesn't give up its secrets easily. From the very beginning, the investigation into Dylan Round's disappearance was a puzzle with missing pieces, false edges, and misleading colors. Law enforcement entered the case cautiously. A teenage boy, a remote location, few clues. At first, it looked like Dylan may have simply wandered off. But those closest to him knew better. Dylan wasn't reckless. He didn't make spontaneous decisions. Something was wrong, and someone was hiding it. The first days were chaotic. Justin Rounds, Dylan's father, took charge. He wasn't just a concerned parent. He became the central force behind the search. He coordinated with police, organized search parties, and tracked down individuals who might know something, anything about what happened.
He's out here trying to manage it and make something out of nothing. I've been pissed off the whole time he's been out here. And so he's been trying his ass off, making some connections with ranchers and people that do things, you know. So he's not out here. We don't know these people.
Have you heard any other names he's ever mentioned before? He's talked to, hung out with,
The only
females?
people he's, no females.
No, females, anybody? No kids?
Only people is the guy that owns this has befriended him. People at the bar, he'll go there for lunch, get a hamburger. People at the store know him. He stayed at this hotel, and he knows. I forget some of these names.
But in this story, every answer led to more questions. Rumors spread fast in small towns. And in the dusty corners of Utah and Nevada, names began to surface, each one with their own dark cloud. One of the earliest suspicions fell on Kurt Wadsworth. Local chatter suggested Kurt had a close, possibly too close, relationship with Dylan. Some said the two had been living together at the Saddle Sore Bar, off and on, for over a year.
By everything I've read and seen, I'm pretty sure it has to be someone that knows him.
Yes.
It's someone that knows that Lucien area really well.
Yes.
It's someone that knows Montello really well.
Yes.
And the only person that fits that profile is Kurt. And between you and I, I'm not trying to offend you, but it's kind of common knowledge that Kurt and your son were living at the Saddle Sore in that side room and in the back trailer for about the last year and a half, off and on. Not all the time, but off and on.
Okay.
Kurt knows. I would ask Kurt to go in and take a lie detector test.
Okay. Others claim Kurt had a history of inappropriate behavior. He was known to wear makeup in public, had an odd fixation on younger men, and was considered by many to be off. But nothing tangible tied him to the case, only whispers and speculation. Then there was Chase Venstra, a known criminal and drug user from Montello. Dylan had a strange encounter with him just days before disappearing. On May 25th, Dylan reportedly found Chase in the desert, shoeless, disoriented. Dylan allowed him to call his father but refused to let him borrow his phone or give him a ride. Just 3 days later, Dylan was gone.
5:25 is when Dylan ran into Chase with the desert and called me right after. On Wednesday, May 25th, Dylan called me at 9:28 in the morning. I was at work at Costco, and he tells me, "You'll never believe what happened to me, Mom. This guy runs out of the desert. He's barefoot. He looks all beat up, blah, 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 and he wanted a ride, and I wouldn't give him a ride. But he had made a phone call to his dad, and his dad was going to come get him." Well, we have confirmed Dylan gave Chase a ride. And I know the reason why Dylan lied to me, because he knows he'd get his ass chewed if he told me he picked up a tweaker in the middle of the desert. So he kind of left that part out, but he wanted to tell me the story. So that's what led to this whole Chase deal.
Phone records later revealed Dylan's last ping came from a location suspiciously close to where Chase was believed to be. Yet when questioned, Chase had vanished. He was missing too. Not for long, but long enough to fuel rumors. Locals described him as unstable, armed, and unpredictable.
You guys know Chase?
We know Avi. He steals.
Yeah, that's what we. What about Dylan? You guys know Dylan at all?
Never heard of him.
Chase. Yeah. So Chase is out on that ranch out there. Is that what you're saying?
Somewhere out there.
Okay.
Because he was supposed to be in Idaho.
When he was finally arrested on unrelated warrants, investigators grilled him for answers. But nothing concrete emerged. He remained a shadow figure, suspected but not proven. The search widened. Abandoned trailers, deserted wells, old mine shafts. Areas with names like Cowboy Bar and Paul's Ranch became hot zones.
Our reason for wanting to talk to you guys is more for background information in regards to individuals that frequent the area where Dylan ranched, Dylan hung out, know he came back and forth here. And that's it. So if we can talk too long, honestly, I don't care.
Leave your phone on. It's fine. I'll stay. I can be quiet. I can do that.
That's not the reason.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you don't have a subpoena or something or a warrant,
I don't want
this is how we're going to do it. What? Hey, we are happy to help try and find Dylan. That'd be great.
Well, then
my uncle was friends with him, but
which uncle is that?
At the church. At the moment, we're getting a lot of attention I from was police that we friends don't with deserve.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so here's part of that. Here's part of that. As much as we want to find out who's responsible for it, we want to find out who's not responsible for it and make that known. And I'm willing to just be completely honest with you about everything. I have no reason to bullshit you or lie to you about anything. It's just good law enforcement practice when we can. And so if you understand that part, then I would hope you would appreciate that, like, we're not here to cause trouble for you, other than to just get you off the ass. And I can appreciate the fact that you've got a lot of people crawling up your ass, and God knows there's a rumor mill around this small area that is talking about all sorts of crazy shit.
Search and rescue combed the vast desert terrain, often with little more than speculation to guide them. At one point, a pair of pants was discovered by a gravel pile, tattered and dust-covered. For a moment, everyone held their breath. But they weren't Dylan's. Another false lead.
We were coming, guys saw these pants, we all rushed back here. I took some pictures, sent them to show. Everybody was telling everybody not to touch them, but we got a hammer to see if it was the size of Dylan, and it's not. It was a bigger size of pants, and I texted Brian that. The crotch is blown out, nobody touched it, we just used the claws.
Meanwhile, pressure mounted on James Brenner. Though Brenner initially cooperated, his demeanor grew increasingly suspicious. He dismissed concerns, acted defensive, and spun stories that didn't add up. When investigators requested access to his trailer, he hesitated. He claimed to have nothing to hide, but his behavior said otherwise. And then, the breakthrough. Hidden in plain sight, a cracked phone was found submerged in a shallow pond near Brenner's trailer. Investigators weren't even sure it would power on. But when forensic teams extracted the data, they uncovered the now infamous time-lapse. It was Brenner, covered in blood, cleaning guns. The timestamp, within minutes of Dylan's disappearance, was damning. This video redefined the investigation. It transformed suspicion into certainty. Investigators moved swiftly. They searched Brenner's trailer and found an arsenal, multiple guns, black powder, matching ammunition. It wasn't just what he had, it was what he shouldn't have. As a felon, Brenner was legally barred from owning any firearms. He was arrested. Officially, the charges were weapons-related, but everyone knew this was about more than bullets. The case reached a turning point. With Brenner behind bars, law enforcement continued to pressure his associates. They interviewed neighbors, including Donald Hatley, who revealed Brenner had stashed guns with him, right after Dylan disappeared. The pieces were falling into place, but it would take time, 2 agonizing years before the full truth came to light. James eventually cracked. Whether it was guilt, fear, or a calculated deal, he led authorities to Dylan's remains. And just like that, the case that had haunted the Utah desert for years finally had its resolution. But the damage had already been done. The investigation revealed a community frayed at the edges, a place where people disappeared, where rumors replaced justice, and where truth had to be wrestled from the grip of silence. Justice, when it finally came, was as bittersweet as it was long overdue. For 2 years, Dylan Round's family lived in limbo. Each day stretched like an eternity. Each rumor brought hope, followed by heartbreak. But in the summer of the second year, something changed. James Brenner, once silent, once defiant, finally talked. The man who had lived on Dylan's property, who had watched him work, who shared the same dust and silence of the Utah desert, now admitted what everyone feared. He had killed Dylan. He led investigators to a remote burial site. There, beneath a hard crust of soil and time, they found what remained of the young man whose dreams had once echoed across empty fields. The confirmation brought an end to a nightmare, but it also reopened every wound. Dylan's mother wept. His father stood still, the silence around him louder than ever before. There were no television crews, no press conferences, just a grave, a confession, and a family left to rebuild. James Brenner was sentenced to 30 years in prison, The courtroom was quiet, no dramatic outbursts, no apologies from the man who had taken everything. Just a sentence read aloud, and the sound of a door closing behind him, a door that will stay shut for the rest of his life. But no amount of prison time can restore what was lost. Dylan's story became more than a criminal case. It became a mirror, reflecting the cracks in the systems that should have protected him. Law enforcement was slow to act. The community was divided, hesitant, even fearful. Misinformation clouded truth, and it was a father's relentless pursuit, not official procedure, that ultimately cracked the case open. Justin Rounds didn't stop. Even when the trail was cold, even when officials gave up, he called, he searched, he knocked on doors, he faced down criminals, and in doing so, he became something more than a grieving parent. He became the driving force of justice in a story where the system nearly failed. The aftermath wasn't just about a resolution, it was about reflection. People in Montello and Lucin began to question how well they knew each other. The rumors that once seemed like local gossip now carried weight. Who could be trusted? How many other secrets were buried beneath their feet? Kurt Wadsworth faded back into the background. Chase Venstra was cleared, though his name would forever be associated with the case. And as for James Brenner, he became a symbol, a reminder of how evil can hide in plain sight. In the years following Dylan's death, his family started a foundation in his name. Its mission is simple: to support families of missing persons, especially those in rural areas where help can feel a world away. They speak at events, they work with search teams, they make sure Dylan's voice never truly goes silent.
New tonight, the family of Dylan Rounds is announcing the creation of a nonprofit in his honor.
About their mission to help others like Dylan.
Resources that are out there. There's so many trolls. People fall into the wrong situations that they think people are going to help them. And we want, through Dylan's legacy, to be that safe place after everything we went through. You know, you blink your eyes, parents, husbands, wives, whoever, like, you go to bed one night, your world's great. You wake up the next morning and it's shattered. And so you will grasp at anything. Anybody who tells you they're going to help you, they're going to help find your loved one, they'll, you know, and unfortunately it leads to a lot more problems and cases. And that's what we want people to help be aware of. So we'll just do it in a different way. It's not idea, but it's what we have been dealt, and we will deal with it. And he'll still have a legacy.
And they remember him, not just for how he died, but for how he lived. Dylan was a builder, a dreamer, a young man who chose the hardest path and walked it with pride. He didn't ask for fame. He didn't seek recognition. He just wanted to grow something, to make something real in a world of noise and distraction. His story is now shared in classrooms, police training sessions, and online communities. People remember his determination, his courage, his quiet strength. His legacy is not in his tragedy, it's in his resilience. And every time someone tells his story, every time a family finds strength to keep searching, every time a young person dares to chase a dream, Dylan Rounds lives on. The wind never stops blowing in the Utah desert. It moves through Lucin and Montello like a memory, brushing across the cracked ground, sweeping over rusted fences and sun-bleached signs. For those who live there, life is simple, quiet, and distant. But after Dylan Rounds' disappearance, the silence carried a different weight. It's no longer just a forgotten town in the shadow of old rail lines. It's a place marked by tragedy, by questions, by a community forced to confront what lurked beneath its surface. The desert became a witness, and perhaps in its own way, a storyteller. Even now, people still ask, how could this happen? How could a young man so full of purpose be taken from the world in such a senseless, violent way? There were signs, there were rumors, there was danger. But no one ever thought it would lead here. James Brenner sits behind bars, aging, isolated, his silence now a legal formality. He gave up Dylan's location, yes, but not his full truth. Why did he record that video? Was it arrogance? A sick memento? Or was it carelessness, the same way he seemed to treat life, property, even another human being? There are some questions that will never be answered, and maybe that's the hardest part for those who love Dylan. Closure isn't as clean as it sounds. A body found, a sentence given. Those are technicalities. What remains is the echo, the haunting feeling that this never should have happened, that someone should have stepped in sooner, that someone should have said something louder. In small towns, silence often passes for survival, but not anymore. Dylan's case has inspired new conversations about rural law enforcement, about who gets attention, who gets forgotten, and what happens when the first 48 hours are wasted. It's opened eyes to the vulnerability of remote communities, where people disappear, and too often, no one comes looking fast enough. Police agencies across the region have reevaluated their protocols. Media outlets that once ignored such cases now give them space. And families, so many families, have reached out to the Rounds family with their own stories. Missing children, cold cases, long drives and empty searches. It's a painful kinship, born from the same void. But there's also hope. The Dylan Rounds Foundation now funds missing person searches, provides GPS tools for remote farmers, and even offers training resources for local law enforcement on handling early reports of disappearance. It's turning grief into something meaningful, not just a memory, but a movement. And for those who knew Dylan personally, that's the way he would have wanted it. He wasn't loud, he wasn't boastful, but he was determined. He wanted to build something that lasted, and in a strange way, he has. His story, though marked by pain, has become a blueprint for change. In schools and town halls and farm supply stores and at family tables, people speak Dylan's name, not just to remember what was lost, but to make sure it doesn't happen again. His mother keeps his room just as he left it. His father still drives the dirt roads where Dylan once walked. They visit his grave, not in search of peace, but in respect. They talk to him. They promise they won't stop telling his story. And that story, his story, isn't over. Because every time someone hears his name, every time someone pauses to check in on a neighbor, every time someone reports a missing person faster than they would have before, Dylan lives again, in the ripple he started, in the legacy he never got to finish himself. The desert will remember. The wind will carry his story farther than he ever drove that grain truck. And so will we. In stories like this, the land never forgets. The Utah desert, with its vast silence and windswept stillness, holds on to memories the way cities hold on to noise. Dylan Rounds may be gone, but the earth where he worked, the roads he drove, and the dreams he nurtured still echo with his presence. His story, though born in tragedy, has become something greater, an emblem of awareness, resilience, and the enduring strength of a family that refused to let silence win. Somewhere, another parent is searching, another small town is holding its breath, hoping for closure. Let Dylan's name be the reason someone steps forward, the reason a voice is heard before it's too late. His story reminds us that every life matters, every second counts, and no one should vanish without the world knowing who they were. If you were moved by this story, if you believe in justice, in truth, in the power of remembering, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more true stories that deserve to be told. Your support keeps these voices alive, and it helps ensure that Dylan Rounds is never forgotten. Nestled in the heart of Indiana, Delphi was the kind of town where life moved at a relaxed pace. Families had lived there for generations, neighbors knew one another by name, and crime, especially violent crime, was almost unheard of. It was a place where people felt safe, where kids could play outside without fear, and where parents never had to worry about letting their children explore the woods or walk to a friend's house alone. But on February 13th, 2017, that sense of security was forever shattered when two young girls,
Central case, two missing juveniles, Liberty Rose Lynn German, last seen at the High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana, at approximately 1300 hours. Second juvenile, Abigail Joyce Williams, subject was last seen wearing a gray zip up sweatshirt and a red shirt with a red shirt under it and jeans.
Abigail Abby Williams, 13, and Liberty Libby German, 14, set out for a hike and never returned.
On the afternoon of February 13th, 2017, Abby and Libby were dropped off at the trails that lead to the Monon High Bridge. They were supposed to be picked up by Libby's father at 3 p.m. They never turned up. The search started around 5:30.
The Monon High Bridge was an old abandoned railroad bridge that had become a popular local hangout.
And just off the trail, there's an abandoned railroad bridge, the Monon High Bridge, 63 feet above Deer Creek.
The Monon High Bridge is not that serene. It's this old, rickety bridge, or it was at the time, right? The rail ties are falling apart. It's, you know, you could look down, take a couple steps and look down and see a 100-foot drop below you.
The bridge itself was both beautiful and dangerous, a relic from the past, stretching high over Deer Creek with missing planks and a rickety structure that made crossing it an adventure.
I mean, it was a very high bridge. The name definitely applies. I grew up watching people post on their Snapchat stories, like going to the bridge to like read a book or things like that, and they'd have their feet like swinging over the edge.
That afternoon, the girls were excited to explore the trail, enjoy the crisp February air, and take some photos.
I'll never forget that day, February 13th. It was around 2 p.m. I saw the picture of Abby on the bridge on their Snapchat stories, and I immediately just knew that something was wrong.
Libby's older sister, Kelsey German, was the last known person to see them alive, dropping them off near the trailhead at approximately 1:35 p.m. They were supposed to meet their ride home at 3:15 p.m. By all accounts, it was a normal, happy day until something sinister interrupted it.
Whole upset, confused, obviously very distraught. Just worried. All I want to do is have the girls get home safe. Missing, abducted, we don't know for sure. There's a cell phone tower, but the ping was last noted about 5 or 6 hours ago. They say the phone's now dead.
Sometime between 2:07 p.m. and 3 p.m., something went terribly wrong.
All options are on the table. Did they run away? Did they go to a party? Did they fall off the bridge? Did they get injured? No one had any idea what had happened to them, but the official search was halted that night and picked up the next morning.
The carefree hike turned into a nightmare, and the small town of Delphi would never be the same again. One of the most haunting aspects of this case is that Libby German had the foresight to record a crucial piece of evidence before she and Abby were attacked. At 2:07 p.m., she posted a Snapchat image of Abby walking along the bridge. This would become the last known photograph of either girl alive. But it was what she did next that turned this case into one of the most chilling murder mysteries in modern history. At 2:13 p.m., Libby took out her phone and recorded a short, grainy video of a man walking toward them on the bridge. He was dressed in a navy blue jacket, blue jeans, and a cap. His hands were tucked into his pockets, and though his pace was unhurried, there was something unsettling about his posture. Then came the audio recording. Just a few words, but enough to send shivers down the spines of investigators and the public alike. "Guys, down the hill!" The tone was firm, commanding. There was no question that this was an order. What happened after those words were spoken remains unknown, but law enforcement later confirmed that the man in the video was their prime suspect. Despite having his image and voice, his identity remained a mystery for years, as if he had vanished into thin air after committing the crime. Why did Libby start recording? Did she recognize the man? Did she sense danger before he even spoke? Or had he approached them in a way that immediately set off alarm bells? These questions have never been fully answered. But her quick thinking meant that even in her final moments, she left behind a critical clue. When Abby and Libby failed to show up at their designated pickup location at 3:15 p.m., concern quickly turned into fear. The families initially assumed the girls had lost track of time or were having too much fun to notice the hour. But as the minutes turned into hours and phone calls to them went straight to voicemail, the worry escalated.
Whole upset, confused, obviously very distraught. Just worried. All I want to do is have the girls get home safe. Missing, abducted, we don't know for sure. There's a cell phone tower, but the ping was last noted about 5 or 6 hours ago. They say the phone's now dead.
By early evening, family members, friends, and local volunteers began searching the trail and surrounding woods. Flashlights cut through the growing darkness as people called out the girls' names, hoping to hear a response.
Word spread quickly that help was needed, that these girls needed to be found. Hundreds of people turned out and searched through the night. Becky Patty, Libby's grandmother, would say that you could see flashlights everywhere like stars in the sky, like fireflies. It was a full town effort.
Police were alerted and an official search was launched. The entire town mobilized, with hundreds of people scouring the trails, creek beds, and remote areas near the bridge. But the searchers' worst fears were confirmed the next day. On February 14th, 2017, at approximately 12:15 p.m., 2 bodies were discovered in a wooded area about half a mile from the Monon High Bridge.
Basically, we have identified the bodies of the 2 females that were found out yesterday. Abigail J. Williams, 13, of the Delphi area, and Liberty Rose Lynn German, 14, of the Delphi area. Family has been notified. This is considered a double homicide investigation.
Though law enforcement did not immediately confirm the identities, the families were soon given the devastating news. The bodies belonged to Abby and Libby. Authorities quickly ruled the deaths as homicides, but beyond that, they remained tight-lipped. No official cause of death was released, and few details about the crime scene were made public. This secrecy only fueled speculation. Were the girls restrained? Did they suffer before they died? Some reports suggested that the bodies had been staged in a deliberate manner, possibly as part of a ritual or a message from the killer. Others claimed that eerie symbols had been found near the scene, carved into trees or left behind as a cryptic calling card. Adding to the chilling nature of the crime was the discovery of an unspent .40 caliber bullet casing near the girls' bodies, an odd and seemingly small detail that would later become a vital piece of evidence. Despite having video and audio evidence, law enforcement struggled to identify the man on the bridge. In the days following the murders, police released a composite sketch based on eyewitness accounts. The first sketch depicted an older man with a thick beard, wearing a cap and jacket. But 2 years later, in 2019, authorities released a second sketch. A much younger man with wavy hair and striking features. The contrast between the 2 sketches led to mass confusion. Had law enforcement changed their theory, or had they received new information that pointed them in an entirely different direction? Over the years, several potential suspects were investigated. Among them was Daniel Nations, a registered sex offender who had been arrested in Colorado for threatening hikers with a hatchet. His resemblance to the older suspect sketch made him an initial person of interest, but he was eventually ruled out. Another suspect, Charles Eldridge, was arrested for child exploitation, and his mugshot bore an eerie resemblance to the second sketch. Yet again, no solid evidence linked him to Delphi. Investigators explored numerous theories. Was this the work of an online predator, a serial killer, a local man who knew the area well? Despite thousands of tips pouring in, the case remained frustratingly cold for more than 5 years. For more than 5 years, the Delphi murders had baffled investigators. With thousands of tips pouring in, multiple suspects considered, and countless theories emerging, yet no arrests were made. The community feared the killer could still be among them.
Who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight, and you want to know what we know. And one day, you will. A question to you. What will those closest to you think of when they find out that you brutally murdered 2 little girls? 2 children. Only a coward would do such a thing.
Blending in as an ordinary citizen, watching as the investigation continued to swirl around him. Then on October 28, 2022, in a stunning development, Indiana State Police announced the arrest of 50-year-old Richard Allen.
Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation.
A local resident who had been living in Delphi the entire time, hiding in plain sight. The revelation was as shocking as it was disturbing.
We expected to be excited and happy and overjoyed that he's arrested, but now we're dealing with understanding that there's a lot of reopening wounds that's coming with that.
Unlike many of the suspects considered over the years, men with criminal histories, connections to violent crimes, or disturbing behavioral patterns, Richard Allen was an unassuming, well-liked member of the community.
I was surprised because he seemed like a real nice guy and everything, waiting on us in the drive-thru and everything.
He worked at the local CVS pharmacy, where he often interacted with customers.
Richard Matthew Allen was 50 years old, had no criminal history, and worked as a farm tech over at the local CVS in Delphi.
Including the very families who had been mourning the loss of Abby and Libby.
I had not interacted with him, but everyone knew who he was. I mean, he worked there for so long. And when I found out who it was, I never in a million years thought that it would have been him. Not someone so integral to the community and to the Delphi experience.
He even developed photos for the German and Williams families after the murders, a detail that would later send chills through those who realized just how close they had been to the man allegedly responsible. For years, he had never been on law enforcement's radar in any significant way, despite the fact that he lived just a few miles from the crime scene and had even spoken to investigators early in the case. According to police records, Allen voluntarily told authorities back in 2017 that he had been on the Monon High Bridge Trail on the day of the murders. At the time, however, this admission didn't seem suspicious. He was just another local who had been near the area. It wasn't until years later that investigators took a second look at his statement and matched it with new forensic evidence. The key breakthrough in identifying Allen came from forensic analysis of a .40 caliber unspent bullet casing found at the crime scene, near the bodies of Abby and Libby. While this casing had been known to investigators for years, advancements in forensic ballistics allowed them to link it directly to a gun owned by Richard Allen. When investigators conducted a search of Allen's home in October 2022, they recovered a Sig Sauer Model P2 26.40 caliber handgun, which was later confirmed through forensic testing to have ejected the casing found at the crime scene. Ballistics experts explained that even though the bullet itself hadn't been fired, when a round is chambered and then removed from a gun, unique markings are left on the casing. When Allen's gun was tested, the markings on the bullet casing left at the crime scene were an exact match, a damning piece of evidence that placed him directly at the scene of the crime. Adding to the evidence against him was the fact that Allen had no reasonable explanation for how a bullet from his gun ended up near the victims. In police interviews, he admitted that the gun was his and that he had owned it since 2001, long before the murders.
Of your house, we find a gun, your gun. Have you owned that gun, right?
I do.
When did you buy it?
Oh my gosh. I don't even remember.
2001. I'll check for you. I know a lot of the answers to the questions I'm going to ask you, but I'm just trying to give you the opportunity to be honest. That's why I asked the question. So you bought it in 2001 in Peru.
Okay.
But when pressed, he denied any involvement in the crime and could not explain why an unspent casing from his firearm was present at the location where Abby and Libby were killed.
And I asked you if you ever loaned anything out. I gave you scenarios. No. So that's your gun. Either you had that gun or somebody had that gun. Because there's no way that round gets on that property where these two girls were killed without that gun being there. And you're there, your car's there, witnesses say
there is no way a round from my gun was anywhere near the girls, the bridge. It just didn't happen.
Beyond the ballistics evidence, investigators began to take a closer look at Allen's 2017 police interview, where he had originally stated that he had been at the trail on the day of the murders, but had not seen the girls.
It could have been a little before noon or a little afternoon. Walked down, back an hour, so probably 1:30, 1:45, depending on exactly what time it was that I got there that day. I just remember walking down the trail, and I had told him that when I was approaching the trailhead, I guess is what I call it, there was 3 girls walking off the trail. And I just remember it looking like one of them was probably watching, babysitting, but watching the other two because they looked a little younger. And they looked very similar. I don't know if they were sisters or whatever, but the other one didn't necessarily. But I remember seeing them walking off the trailhead, and I didn't really see anybody.
At the time, there was nothing inherently suspicious about this. Many people had been in the area that day, and Alan had voluntarily come forward to share his whereabouts. But after the bullet casing match, his own statement placed him at the scene of the crime, reinforcing the belief that he had been lying about his level of involvement.
Well, this doesn't just go away.
I know.
Exactly.
The only person I think can explain all this is you, and you're not explaining it to me.
I don't know what it is you want me to explain.
What were you doing on the bridge? How did your round get there? And why did you kill these two girls? And why were you involved in this? What was your involvement?
I had no involvement.
I don't think, listen, Rick, I don't think you're the one that killed them. I don't think you're the one that stuck the knife in them. Are you?
Are you
that guy?
Really?
Are you? I'm asking you.
Anybody that knows me knows I could never, even if I wanted to, do something like that. That's not who I am.
Then what happened?
I can't tell you. How do you expect me to tell you? You want me to make up a story and...
No, the truth. The truth is simple. You don't have to make that up. You just go back and tell me the truth. You can't tell me that this event has not been weighing on you for years and years and years. You were out there.
I've told you that. I don't know what you want me to do at this point.
Following his arrest, disturbing details about Richard Allen began to emerge. Though he had lived a seemingly normal life with a wife and a steady job, investigators began uncovering indications that he may have been leading a double life. Neighbors and acquaintances recalled that his behavior had changed after the murders. Some described him as becoming more withdrawn, while others noted that he had continued going about his daily life as though nothing had happened. An eerie thought, given that he had likely been watching news reports and seeing the sketches of a suspect that looked very much like him. Even more disturbing was the revelation that Allen had allegedly posed as a law enforcement officer at one point, and some witnesses claimed he had exhibited controlling or intimidating behavior. While these allegations are still being investigated, they add to the growing theory that he may not have been as ordinary as he appeared. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of Allen's arrest was the suggestion that he may not have acted alone. Some court documents suggest that the crime scene had a ritualistic or symbolic element, with eerie markings found near the bodies. There have been unconfirmed reports that strange symbols were found carved into nearby trees, and some investigators have speculated that the crime may have been part of a larger, more sinister plot. One of the most widely discussed theories is the possibility that the Delphi murders were linked to a larger online predator network. In the years following the killings, investigators uncovered a disturbing pattern of online catfishing accounts targeting young girls in the area. In particular, a man named Keegan Klein, a known child predator, was found to have been communicating with Libby German through a fake social media profile under the name Anthony Shots.
Friends on social media with the Anthony Shots profile, and that he at least liked or commented on some of her posts. Keegan Klein from Peru, Indiana, about 40 minutes away, admitted he created that fake profile, and I spoke to him from jail.
Klein was arrested in 2020 on multiple counts of child exploitation and possession of child pornography.
Are you aware whether you may have talked to Libby on the 13th?
That's what they said. That's what the police told me.
That you did?
Yeah.
And do you have any recollection of that?
No, not at all.
Did you have anything to do with the murders of Abby or Libby?
Not at all. And I gave up my DNA, a hair follicle test. I've done everything they wanted me to.
While police have never directly linked Klein to Allen, some theorists believe the possibility of an online grooming connection cannot be ruled out. Did Allen know Klein? Was he part of a larger network of predators? Was the meeting between Allen and the girls premeditated, or was it a crime of opportunity? These questions remain unanswered. Richard Allen remains in custody, facing 2 counts of murder. His trial is expected to be one of the most closely watched legal proceedings in recent history, as the public and the families of Abby and Libby seek long-awaited justice. However, there is still significant mystery surrounding the case. Law enforcement has hinted at the possibility of more arrests in the future, leading to speculation that Allen was not the only person involved. For the people of Delphi, the arrest of Richard Allen provided some relief but not full closure. Until every detail is brought to light and every person involved is held accountable, the town remains haunted by the tragedy that stole 2 young lives and forever changed their sense of safety. The biggest question still remains: was Richard Allen truly the only killer, or is there someone else out there who still holds the final, terrifying truth? Richard Allen remains in custody, awaiting trial on 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of Abigail Abby Williams and Liberty Libby German. The upcoming court proceedings are expected to provide long-awaited answers, but they may also raise even more troubling questions about what truly happened on February 13, 2017. For the past 7 years, law enforcement has kept many details of the case under tight wraps, leading to intense speculation and frustration among the public. Even after Allen's arrest, investigators have continued to remain cautious about releasing certain evidence, fueling theories that the case is far more complex than it initially seemed. Was Richard Allen truly the sole perpetrator, or could there be others involved who have yet to be identified? Did he plan the attack in advance, or was it a crime of opportunity? If Allen acted alone, why did the crime scene reportedly contain unusual elements, including the possible staging of the victims' bodies? Could there be someone else out there, still free, who knows the full, horrifying truth? The small town of Delphi, once known for its friendly community and scenic trails, has become synonymous with one of the most chilling murder mysteries in modern American history. Before that fateful day, Delphi was the kind of place where doors were left unlocked, children rode their bikes without fear, and families gathered at the local park without a second thought. Now it is a town burdened by grief, suspicion, and a lingering sense of unease. For more than 5 years, the identity of the man on the bridge, captured in the infamous Snapchat video, was unknown. Delphi residents feared that he could be living among them, blending into the community, hiding in plain sight. The eventual arrest of Richard Allen only deepened that fear, as many realized they had interacted with him regularly at the local CVS pharmacy.
People who have talked to who shopped at the CVS and dealt with Richard Allen described him as friendly. In fact, after the murders, Libby's aunt went in there to have some pictures printed for Libby's memorial. She said Richard Allen helped her, and at the time, she thought he was helpful and kind.
Parents who once trusted their neighbors now found themselves questioning who else in their town might be capable of such horror. Even with a suspect in custody, Delphi has not found true peace. The unanswered questions surrounding the case continue to weigh heavily on the community. Until every detail is brought to light and every individual responsible is held accountable, the town will remain haunted by the darkness that descended upon it in 2017. One of the most chilling aspects of this case is the persistent belief that Richard Allen may not have acted alone. Law enforcement has not ruled out the possibility of additional arrests, and unsealed court documents have hinted at disturbing details that suggest a broader conspiracy. The crime scene, according to some leaked reports, allegedly displayed ritualistic elements. Some sources claim that symbols were found near the bodies, possibly carved into trees or left as some kind of cryptic message. If true, this raises terrifying questions. Was this crime part of a larger, more sinister plan? Adding to the mystery is the connection to Keegan Kline, the Indiana man behind the Anthony Shots catfishing account that had communicated with Libby German before her murder. Kline, a known child predator, was arrested in 2020 on charges unrelated to the Delphi case, but investigators have questioned him extensively about his potential involvement. Phone records show that Kline's device was used to contact Libby in the days leading up to her death. Some evidence even suggests that someone using Kline's account may have attempted to lure her to the Monon High Bridge. Could Richard Allen have been the person Kline was communicating with? Was the meeting between Allen and the girls premeditated? Did Kline or others know about the attack before it happened?
We learn that the evidence shows that Abby and Libby are dropped off at the trails at 1:49 p.m. And we already knew that Libby's video recording that man on the bridge happened at 2:13, just 24 minutes later.
Law enforcement has remained tight-lipped on whether there is a direct link between Klein and Allen, but many believe that this connection could hold the key to unlocking the full truth. If more people were involved, were they part of an underground predator network? Did Abby and Libby unknowingly stumble into a situation far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined? The upcoming trial will be one of the most closely watched in recent history as prosecutors prepare to lay out the full case against Richard Allen. For years, the public has been left in the dark about crucial details, but in the courtroom, forensic evidence, witness testimony, and potentially shocking new revelations may finally shed light on what truly happened on that tragic day.
Probable cause reveals at least 4 witnesses. 3 teenage girls and 1 adult woman saw someone generally matching the description of the person in Libby's video between 1:26 p.m. and 2:13 p.m., the time that Abby and Libby were encountering that man on the bridge.
Those witnesses is seen on surveillance video arriving around 1:46 p.m. And she says she parked her car and then walked out to the bridge where she saw a man standing on the bridge about 50 feet away. She didn't walk onto the bridge. She turned around and walked back in the direction she came. And when she did that, she passed 2 young girls who were walking towards the bridge. And she believes that was Abby and Libby.
Was driving north of the trails that day, and about 2 hours after the abduction, she saw a man in a blue jacket walking in the opposite direction, quote, muddy and bloody.
One of the most pressing questions is whether Allen lured the girls to the Monon High Bridge or if the encounter was purely coincidental. Investigators have long suspected that the crime scene was staged in some manner, raising disturbing questions about the killer's motive and whether there were deeper, more sinister elements at play. The unspent bullet casing found near the bodies, directly linked to Allen's firearm, remains one of the most damning pieces of evidence against him.
The most damaging piece of evidence that the state of Indiana has against Richard Allen is the unspent round that cycled through his gun, found just 2 feet away from Libby German. He is either the unluckiest guy in the world, or he was there at the scene when those 2 girls were murdered.
But how it ended up there and what role it played in the crime will likely be examined in court. Another major focus of the trial will be whether Allen had any connection to Keegan Klein and the infamous Anthony Schatz catfishing account, which had been used to communicate with Libby in the days leading up to the murders. Investigators have remained tight-lipped about whether this link is significant, but if evidence suggests that Allen and Klein were connected, it could point to a much larger and more complex crime than previously thought. The possibility of additional suspects remains an unsettling factor in the case, with law enforcement refusing to rule out further arrests. If new evidence emerges that others were involved, the trial could take a shocking turn, unraveling a conspiracy far beyond what anyone initially imagined. For the families of Abby and Libby, the trial represents a long overdue moment of reckoning. They have fought tirelessly for justice, enduring years of uncertainty, false leads, and agonizing silence. A conviction would finally bring a sense of accountability, ensuring that at least one person responsible for their daughter's deaths is held to answer for the horrific crime. However, the lingering possibility that other perpetrators remain at large means that even a guilty verdict may not be the final chapter in this case. The truth behind what happened on the bridge that day is still not fully known, and as the trial unfolds, the world will be watching, waiting for the full story to finally come to light. For the families of Abby and Libby, the pain of losing their daughters has been compounded by the long and agonizing search for answers. Kelsey German, Libby's older sister, has been one of the most vocal advocates for justice.
She was so smart. I think that video and audio definitely keeps people's attention. I think that helps us a lot. I think people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, this 14-year-old girl thought about taking a video of this, and we have this video and we have this audio and we don't have answers. That's crazy. I'm feeling like no answers are coming, and I'm feeling defeated. I say that. I say today is the day, it's coming. It'll get here. We're going to have answers, and just reaffirm myself and say, you know, it's hard, it's frustrating, it's been 5 years, but we're going to have answers eventually, and it's coming.
Tirelessly keeping the case in the public eye. She, along with the families of both victims, has fought to ensure that the investigation remains a priority and that their loved ones are never forgotten. The people of Delphi, too, have endured years of uncertainty and fear. Many residents participated in searches, donated to reward funds, and helped spread awareness about the case. Their town, once a quiet and unassuming place, has become a symbol of both tragedy and resilience. Even now, as the trial approaches, there is an unshakable feeling that this case is not yet over. Until every responsible party is identified and held accountable, true closure will remain out of reach. The haunting image of the man on the bridge, captured forever in Libby's video, has loomed over this case since the beginning. Soon the world may finally learn whether Richard Allen was indeed that man, or if there is an even more sinister truth lurking beneath the surface. Until then, Delphi waits. The families wait. The truth remains just beyond reach. But one thing is certain, Abby and Libby will never be forgotten, and justice must come, no matter how long it takes. The arrest of Richard Allen marked a turning point in a case that had haunted the small town of Delphi for over 5 years. But even with a suspect in custody, many questions remain unanswered. What exactly happened on that bridge in February 2017? Was Allen truly the only one responsible, or did others play a role in the horrific crime? Is there more evidence yet to be uncovered that could provide the full, horrifying picture of what happened to Abby and Libby in their final moments? For the families of the victims, justice is long overdue. They have fought tirelessly to keep the case in the public eye, ensuring that Abby and Libby are never forgotten. But closure still feels distant. Until every detail is exposed in court and every individual responsible is held accountable, Delphi will remain a town burdened by its darkest day. The once quiet and peaceful community now carries a legacy of tragedy, one that has forever altered the way its residents see their home. As the trial approaches, the world will be watching. The truth behind the Delphi murders will soon come to light, and with it, the hope that justice will finally be served. But for now, the biggest question still lingers. Did law enforcement catch the only monster involved, or is there someone else still out there, holding the final, terrifying secret of what really happened to Abby and Libby? If you found this deep dive into the Delphi murders case insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime investigations, theories, and updates. Your support helps keep these cases alive and ensures that the voices of the victims are never forgotten. Let's continue the conversation in the comments. What do you think really happened that day? Could there be more suspects involved? Let us know your thoughts below.
Everybody's telling me right now, there's people out there planning to come get me, bro. People coming here to tell my family that there's people that want to kidnap me or they're threatening to kidnap me. Even last night, I'm scared a little bit. I'm scared.
I don't wanna go, just only you and me.
Why?
I'm afraid. I'm afraid if we don't have somebody with us.
On the night of October 17th, 2024, deep in the rural shadows of Cebuco, Zamboanga del Norte, a terrifying chain of events unfolded. The evening was warm, the kind that made the jungle hum with restless energy.
Scared here of dangerous people. I always have to hide. See, looks like the guy had a gun. There's like so many of them. There's like 4 of them. And they're looking at us. They're at me.
But for one American YouTuber, that night would mark the beginning of a nightmare. A sharp knock echoed through the dimly lit home where 26-year-old Elliot Eastman lived with his wife. What started as a quiet evening would spiral into chaos within moments. The men at the door claimed to be police officers. They were armed, their presence intimidating. Before Elliot could react, the situation turned violent. Gunshots rang out in the night. 2, maybe 3. Blood stained the floor. Elliot was hit, his body racked with pain, but there was no time to fight back. He was dragged from his home, his screams swallowed by the darkness. Outside, a motorized banca, a small wooden boat, waited on the shore. Without hesitation, his captors forced him aboard and sped off into the open sea, vanishing into the night like ghosts. The village fell silent, But the horror had only just begun. The next morning, whispers spread like wildfire. Who were these men? Why had they taken Elliot? His wife, desperate and terrified, alerted the authorities. Search teams were deployed, interrogations began, and soon a tangled web of secrets and danger began to emerge. But as days turned to weeks, the silence around Elliot's fate grew heavier, suffocating any hope of a safe return. By December, the case took an even darker turn. Rumors surfaced, suspects were arrested, and then came the chilling conclusion from investigators, one that no one wanted to believe. But without a body, without undeniable proof, one question still lingers like a ghost on the waves. What really happened to Elliot Eastman?
So we made it to the mountain and we're gonna do some swimming with some girls.
Elliot Eastman was more than just an American tourist exploring a foreign land. He was a man searching for something deeper. Born and raised in the quiet, picturesque state of Vermont, he had always felt a pull toward the unknown. Growing up, he was fascinated by stories of adventure, of people who left behind the comfort of the familiar to chase something bigger. He was never the type to settle for an ordinary life. Instead, he longed for new experiences, new cultures, and a life outside the confines of small-town America.
No tourist has ever visited this area. I'm like the first one who's ever... Well, I think there's been people who have visited, but they only stay like a day.
As he entered adulthood, Elliot discovered a passion for storytelling through video. He launched a YouTube channel, initially just for fun, capturing his travels, his thoughts, and the people he met along the way. His content wasn't flashy or overly produced. His charm was in his authenticity. He had an ability to connect with people, to show life as it was, unfiltered and real. Slowly, he built an audience of fellow dreamers, travelers, and those who lived vicariously through his lens. His subscribers admired his courage, leaving behind a predictable life to embrace the uncertainty of the world. But Elliot wasn't just a traveler. He was a man chasing love and belonging. In 2023, he made a life-changing decision. He moved to the Philippines, a place he had visited and fallen in love with. But it wasn't just the stunning beaches or the warmth of the culture that captivated him. It was a woman. He met and married a local Filipina, choosing to settle in Zamboanga del Norte, a region known for its rugged beauty, but also its dangers. To friends and family back home, it seemed like a dream.
If I was gonna go back to the States to do that, I'd have to get my license. I'd have to renew my license. Maybe I'm gonna go to the States soon, yeah. It's very possible. Obviously, this place isn't the most safe place for, like, somebody like me. Yeah, that's like a smart idea, honestly. Get some quick delivery cash and come back. Not a bad idea.
Elliot had carved out a new life, far from the cold winters of Vermont, in a place where adventure was always just outside his doorstep. But beneath the surface, his new life may not have been as idyllic as it seemed. The region where he settled wasn't a typical tourist destination. It was remote, unpredictable, and at times dangerous. While Elliot saw it as an opportunity for an authentic experience, others may have seen him as an outsider, a target. His growing online presence made him visible, perhaps to the wrong people. And as he embraced his new home, he may not have realized the shadows that lurked around him. What started as a journey of love and adventure would soon turn into a chilling mystery, one that would leave more questions than answers. It was supposed to be just another quiet evening in the remote town of Cebuco, Zamboanga del Norte. The humid air clung to the night as Elliot Eastman sat in his modest home, likely winding down after another day in his adopted country. But at some point that night, October 17th, 2024, everything changed. A sharp knock at the door shattered the stillness, and in an instant, Elliot's fate was sealed. Outside, several men stood waiting. They were armed and dressed as police officers, their presence demanding compliance. To anyone else, they might have seemed like legitimate authorities, but something was off.
Check out all these cool boats, yo. So very different. You know, my flat right here, but Right now, it is not working because we don't have enough battery in our solar to make it run. And it's already getting to the end of the day. The solar is no battery.
Before Elliot could question their intent, the situation escalated. The men forced their way in, and what happened next was nothing short of terrifying. Chaos erupted, shouting, struggling, then gunshots. Elliot was shot at least twice, once in the leg, once in the abdomen. But even wounded, he was given no mercy. His captors dragged him from his home, his wife and neighbors powerless to stop it. Outside, the men hurried him onto a waiting motorized banca, a small wooden boat often used by locals to navigate the waters of the region. The engine roared to life, and within moments the vessel disappeared into the vast dark sea. Elliot's blood trailed behind, a silent witness to his suffering, but soon even that was swallowed by the waves. When the morning sun rose, the nightmare was undeniable. Elliot was gone. Authorities were called, and an immediate investigation was launched. But in the rural stretches of the Philippines, justice moved slowly. The search led to whispers, rumors of criminal groups operating in the region, of ransom demands that never came, of enemies Elliot never knew he had. As days turned to weeks, fear and uncertainty loomed. By December, a horrifying theory emerged, that Elliot had succumbed to his injuries soon after the abduction and that his body had been discarded at sea, lost forever. But no body has ever been found. No final proof of what truly happened that night has surfaced. And the question that still haunts those who knew him remains. Was Elliot Eastman just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was this something more sinister, something planned, something personal? When news of Elliot Eastman's abduction spread, a sense of urgency gripped both local authorities and the expat community in the Philippines. His wife, distraught and terrified, immediately contacted the police, pleading for help. The crime had been swift, violent, and deliberate. This was no random act of petty theft or opportunistic crime. It was calculated. Elliot had been targeted. But by the time the authorities mobilized, the trail had already begun to grow cold. Investigators began their work by interviewing witnesses, neighbors who had heard the gunfire, seen the armed men, and watched in horror as Elliot was dragged away. But beyond their statements, physical evidence was scarce. Bloodstains confirmed Elliot had been shot, but without his body it was impossible to determine whether he had survived the initial attack. Authorities scoured the coastline, searching for any sign of the boat that had taken him or a possible drop-off location. But the waters of the Sulu Sea are vast, and if Elliot had been taken far offshore, the chances of finding him were already slim. With few immediate leads, authorities turned to a familiar motive in cases like these: kidnapping for ransom. The Philippines, particularly the southern regions, has a history of abductions, often carried out by criminal groups or insurgents seeking financial gain. If Elliot's captors intended to demand a ransom, his family and the U.S. Embassy braced for a call. But days passed. No ransom request came. There was no communication from the kidnappers, no demands, no sign that Elliot was still alive. This silence was ominous. It suggested that the people who had taken him never intended to negotiate. As days turned into weeks, investigators broadened their focus. If money wasn't the motive, then what was? Authorities began looking into Elliot's life, both in the Philippines and back home in the U.S. Was there anyone who wanted to harm him? Had he unknowingly made enemies? One theory suggested that Elliot's growing online presence may have made him a target. He had documented his life in the Philippines for his YouTube audience, sharing details about his location and lifestyle. While his content wasn't controversial, it was enough to make him visible. Was someone watching from the shadows, waiting for an opportunity? Another possibility pointed to personal conflict. Elliot had married a local woman and was living in an area where foreign men weren't always welcomed with open arms. Did his relationship spark jealousy or resentment? Some locals whispered about land disputes, unpaid debts, or tensions between expats and the community. Could Elliot have unknowingly crossed the wrong people? Authorities also considered the darker side of the region, criminal organizations and armed groups known to operate in Zamboanga del Norte. The area had long been associated with insurgent activity, and foreign nationals had been abducted before. But most of those kidnappings had clear patterns: ransom demands, negotiations, and, at times, eventual releases. Elliot's case didn't fit the mold. Months passed with little progress until December 2024, when authorities made their first major breakthrough. Several suspects were arrested in connection to Elliot's disappearance. Under questioning, some of them revealed chilling details. Elliot had been badly wounded during the abduction, and they believed he hadn't survived long afterward. Even more disturbing, they claimed his body had been disposed of at sea, an act that ensured no evidence would ever be recovered.
What do you make of local police making a public statement like this, that this young man is feared dead? And to make that announcement without the body is pretty significant, no?
It is, but when you have so much evidence and witness statements, and maybe one of the kidnappers that was involved in this given us a sworn statement as well, you come to a logical conclusion of his death, and you owe it to the family of this young man to give them the information of his possible death. And it's sad and it's tragic, especially living overseas, you run the risk of resentment, like you said, with his wife and other things. No matter what your status is in the United States, when you're in a foreign country, especially one like this, you're perceived as rich, no matter what your status is in the United States. And I think they fed off that, and that was the motive of this kidnapping.
For investigators, this information was devastating. Without a body, proving murder was difficult. The Philippine National Police and the U.S. government continued pushing for answers. But the deeper they dug, the more elusive the truth became.
Well, they can lead that investigation because it's a U.S. citizen. And we have the responsibility, or the FBI has the responsibility of taking care of U.S. citizens, even on foreign soil. So they can run the investigation through the U.S. Embassy in that area.
Can they take any sort of action?
Sure. Oh, yeah. You can develop a case. It would probably be on the West Coast. Maybe the LA office might be running that in conjunction with U.S. Embassy. And whatever that United States Attorney's Office is in that area could open an investigation on this, especially that you have one person in custody. If you can really prove that that individual was part of this kidnapping, he can certainly be charged in the United States.
Suspects provided conflicting stories, and those who might have known more either refused to speak or disappeared themselves. Despite the arrests and confessions, Elliot Eastman's case remains shrouded in mystery. If he was taken for ransom, why was there never a demand? If it was a personal vendetta, who ordered it and why? If criminals had orchestrated the attack, did they act alone, or were there higher powers at play? His family and friends refused to give up hope, but with no body and no definitive proof of his fate, the haunting question remains: what really happened to Elliot Eastman? Months after Elliot Eastman vanished into the night, the investigation took a dramatic turn. In December 2024, Philippine authorities announced a series of arrests related to his abduction. The suspects, a mix of local men with known criminal ties, were taken into custody after weeks of covert surveillance and intelligence gathering. Their connections to the case were murky at first, but under pressure, some of them began to talk. What they revealed only deepened the mystery and the horror. According to statements from the arrested men, Elliot had been gravely wounded during the abduction. He had been shot in the leg and abdomen before being taken by boat into the open sea. Some of the suspects claimed that due to the severity of his injuries, he didn't survive for long. Others suggested something even darker, that Elliot may have been executed to eliminate any chance of escape. The most chilling claim? That his body had been thrown into the ocean, ensuring that no physical evidence would ever be recovered. These confessions sent shockwaves through both the local community and international media. If true, it meant Elliot was never meant to return. His disappearance wasn't just an abduction, but an execution. But despite these grim admissions, investigators faced a critical problem. Without a body, proving murder was nearly impossible. Even with suspects in custody, authorities struggled to piece together a clear and consistent narrative. Some suspects contradicted each other, offering vague or conflicting details. Others remained silent, refusing to cooperate despite interrogation. And perhaps most troubling of all, who had ordered this attack? Had Elliot been targeted by a local crime syndicate? Was it a personal vendetta disguised as a random act of violence? Or was it something even more complex? An abduction that had gone horribly wrong? As authorities pressed for answers, several theories began to emerge, each offering a different explanation for Elliot Eastman's disappearance. One possibility was that his abduction had started as a kidnapping for ransom scheme, a crime not uncommon in the region. However, if Elliot was shot early in the attack, the captors may have panicked, realizing that a wounded hostage was more of a liability than an asset. With no way to demand ransom from a dying man, they may have chosen to dispose of him at sea, eliminating any trace of their crime. Another theory suggested that Elliot's disappearance was the result of a personal grudge. Living as a foreigner in a rural, often unpredictable area, he may have unknowingly made enemies, whether through financial disputes, land ownership issues, or even personal relationships. In this scenario, his abduction was not a random act of violence, but a premeditated attack, carefully planned to make it look like a botched kidnapping rather than an intentional act of revenge. Perhaps the most unsettling theory was that of a cover-up. Some of Elliot's supporters feared that the men arrested were merely pawns, scapegoats put forward to satisfy public demand for justice, while the true masterminds remained hidden. If powerful individuals were involved, whether criminals, corrupt officials, or those with personal motives, they may have used their influence to erase evidence, silence witnesses, and manipulate the narrative. In this version of events, Elliot's disappearance wasn't just a crime, it was a secret being deliberately buried. With the suspects in custody, authorities faced the challenge of building a solid case without a body. The prosecution relied heavily on witness testimony, forensic evidence from the crime scene, and the confessions of those arrested. But in a region where corruption and fear often silenced key witnesses, the truth remained elusive. For Elliot's family back in the U.S., the arrest brought no closure, only more questions. Was justice truly being served, or were the real culprits still out there, protected by silence and power? Without a body, without undeniable proof, one question continued to haunt the investigation. Was Elliot Eastman truly gone, or was there more to the story than anyone was willing to admit? As the case moved to trial, the search for justice became even more complicated. Prosecutors faced a daunting challenge. Without Elliot Eastman's body, proving murder beyond a reasonable doubt was nearly impossible. The case relied heavily on the confessions of the arrested suspects, but these statements were inconsistent, with some contradicting each other or recanting altogether. Defense attorneys argued that their clients had been coerced into confessing and that there was no concrete evidence linking them to Elliot's disappearance. Meanwhile, key witnesses were hesitant to testify, either out of fear or possible intimidation. Despite these obstacles, the prosecution pushed forward, presenting forensic evidence from the crime scene, bloodstains in Elliot's home, witness testimonies from the night of the abduction, and phone records suggesting possible coordination among the suspects. But as the trial dragged on, doubts lingered. Were these men truly responsible for Elliot's fate, or were they merely convenient scapegoats? And if they were guilty, had they acted alone, or were there more powerful figures behind the scenes, ensuring that the full truth would never come to light? For Elliot's family, the trial brought little solace. Every day in court only reinforced the brutal reality that they might never get the answers they desperately sought. And as the verdict approached, one question remained unresolved. Would justice truly be served, or would Elliot Eastman's disappearance remain a mystery lost to the sea? Even after the trial concluded, the case of Elliot Eastman remained an open wound for his family, friends, and the global community that had followed his story. The court's decision, whether it resulted in convictions, acquittals, or a hung jury, did little to erase the lingering uncertainty surrounding his disappearance. For some, justice had been served, but for others, the verdict only raised more questions. Without Elliot's body, without irrefutable evidence of his fate, the case felt unfinished, a mystery that refused to rest. In the Philippines, the case sent shockwaves through both the local community and the expat population. Foreigners living in rural areas were forced to confront a harsh reality. No matter how much they embraced their adopted homes, they could still be seen as outsiders, targets for crime, suspicion, or even violence. Many questioned whether Elliot's case had been fully investigated or if deeper, more powerful forces had worked to obscure the truth. Some locals whispered that not all those responsible had been caught, that others who knew more had either disappeared or remained silent out of fear. For Elliot's family back in the U.S., the aftermath was a painful mix of grief, frustration, and unanswered questions. His parents and siblings had spent months pleading for more action, more investigations, more efforts to recover his body, but as time passed, authorities slowly shifted focus to newer cases. Without fresh leads, the urgency to find Elliot began to fade, at least in the eyes of law enforcement. But for those who loved him, the nightmare never ended. With the official investigation stalled, online sleuths, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts took up the case, dissecting every known detail in search of the missing pieces. Some believed that Elliot had been the victim of a failed kidnapping, his captors unprepared for the consequences of their botched crime. Others remained convinced that his abduction was personal, that someone had wanted him silenced for reasons still unknown. And then there were those who questioned whether all the suspects had truly been caught, or if some powerful figure had orchestrated the crime and remained hidden in the shadows. One of the most chilling possibilities? That Elliot's case was part of a larger pattern, one of disappearances that had gone unreported, of foreign nationals who had vanished without a trace. Had he unknowingly uncovered something dangerous? Had he become a target for reasons beyond his own understanding? As time went on, Elliot Eastman's story became more than just a case. It became a cautionary tale. His name was spoken in expat forums, in travel advisories, in whispered warnings to foreigners moving to unfamiliar places. His disappearance served as a stark reminder of the risks that came with being visible in a world where danger could be lurking beneath the surface. Despite the passage of time, one thing remained certain. Elliot's fate had never been fully explained. His family continued to push for answers. His case still sparked discussions. And for those who had followed his journey from the start, one question still haunted them. Was Elliot Eastman's story truly over, or was the real truth still waiting to be uncovered? The case of Elliot Eastman remains one of the most unsettling disappearances in recent years. A story filled with unanswered questions, conflicting theories, and a chilling lack of closure. Was he the victim of a failed kidnapping, a personal vendetta, or something even more sinister? Were the men arrested truly responsible, or were they merely scapegoats for a larger, hidden operation? And most haunting of all, where is Elliot? Without a body, without final proof, his fate remains a painful mystery, leaving his loved ones trapped in an endless cycle of hope and despair. Even as time moves forward, Elliot's story refuses to fade. His case serves as both a warning and a call for justice, a reminder that the world can be both breathtakingly beautiful and dangerously unpredictable. His family continues to seek answers, his supporters refuse to let his memory be forgotten, and the truth, whatever it may be, still lingers just beyond reach. If you found this case as haunting and mysterious as we did, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think really happened to Elliot Eastman? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories. And remember, stay curious, stay safe, and keep searching for the truth.